It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. We got a great panel for you. Alex Kantrowitz is here from bigtechnology.com. Amanda Silberling, the culture editor for TechCrunch. And Kashmir Hill to talk about her new book on face recognition and Clearview AI. Plus, we'll talk about the new Glassholes. What did you say, John? They're on a quest. Get it? Apple cancels Jon Stewart for his political beliefs. You telling me they didn't know what they were? And Mark Andreson has a plan for all of us. It's all coming up next on TWiT.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 950, recorded Sunday, October 22nd, 2023. Happy Sync Day. This episode of This Week in Tech is brought to you by Nureva. It's a first. Nureva's new Pro Series, the HDL 310 for large rooms and the HDL 410 for extra large rooms, gives you uncompromised audio and systems that are incredibly simple to set up, manage, and deploy at scale. Learn more at nureva.com/twit. And by Mint Mobile. Inflation is everywhere, whether it's gas, utilities, or your favorite streaming services. Thankfully, Mint Mobile can give you a much-needed break. Get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/twit. And by ExpressVPN. Spooky season is here. It's time to save money on scary movie subscriptions by changing your online location. Get your money's worth by visiting expressvpn.com/twit. Ooh, and you can get 3 extra months free with a 1-year package. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, the show where we talk about the week's tech news. There's a little bit, but good. We got a good panel for you. Amanda Silberling is here. She called, well, we'll get to that. Senior culture writer at TechCrunch, the one who wrote the headline, "When was the last time Mark Andreson talked to a poor person?" Hello, Amanda.
Hello, that was me. I did write that.
Take full responsibility.
I stand by it.
Own it, baby. Own it.
Yeah. It's a good question. I want to know.
Yeah, well, I obviously never. Great to have you, Amanda. Thanks. Perfect timing. We'll talk about Mark Andreson's manifesto in a second.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Also with us from Big Technology, the Big Technology podcast and the Big Technology newsletter, bigtechnology.com. Alex Kantrowitz back again, author of Always Day One about Amazon. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Leo. Great to be back.
Good to see you. We missed you. It's been a while. I'm glad to see you again. And I'm thrilled to get Kashmir Hill on. She's got limited time with us, unfortunately, but we'll get all the info about her new book, Your Face Belongs to Us. You see Kash Hill's articles, of course, in the New York Times. And I quote you a lot because you wrote the definitive article about geo-IP address location, where you actually went out to the middle of the country to see a discarded toilet. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And you can look it up. It's on the internet. It lives forever. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. I guess we have to talk about Mark Andreson. I don't know why. I mean, we could easily just ignore this, pretend it never happened, and we'd be fine. What happened, Amanda?
So Mark Andreson wrote a manifesto called the Techno-Optimist Manifesto. It's like 5,000 words. He makes a lot of very outlandish proposals in it. Basically, his dream is that he wants us to push tech at all costs, just keep building, and like one day we'll have 50 billion people on Earth and then we'll colonize Mars. And he literally wrote that. But it just felt very like, haven't we learned our lesson at this point that when you push tech to grow without thinking about the implications of that tech, that bad things can happen? But I guess he hasn't learned his lesson.
Yeah. It's I don't know, you cover big tech. Is this Alex, is this manifesto reflect how people in big tech think?
Well, I think Mark Andreson is very different from big tech. I mean, he's the VC that funds the small tech that's supposed to challenge the big tech. So in some way, it's interesting because the big tech has had such a stranglehold on the economy for so long and made it difficult for startups outside of being acquired by big tech, like maybe coming up against that for forever, kind of does drive you a little bit batty, even though he does sit on the board of Meta. That being said, like I think it's a pretty interesting post. It's very difficult to read. It's not very well written. But when you look past that, and this is something that Max Reed brought up in his Substack newsletter over the past week, it really is a story, a manifesto that argues for tech accelerationism, basically saying that there's so much good that tech is going to do for the world as it gets bigger and more embedded in our society that people should just get out of the way and let it do its thing. And then everybody's going to be better off. He makes some good points, right? Like we have gone from, being a species that had no air conditioner, no heater, no internet, no computer, whatever it is, for many, many years. And we invented our way into very comfortable lives. And yes, we have poverty, but we have less poverty than we did in the past. And we look at what's going on with AI right now, and AI presents, a potential serious leap forward opportunity for us to really say, okay, like now technology is going to, take another leap forward. And I think his point is like, let's let it do it, as opposed to all this panic about what the technology can do and whose jobs it will take, and what the downsides are going to be. But that being said, I think that there is some valid criticism here, which is that like you can't just let the thing go without the brake pedal. I mean, it can't be all gas, no brakes. There has to be some responsible ways to rein the technology in when it goes too far. That's kind of how it always works in capitalist markets. And I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a segment of the tech world that's going to believe this and hone to it for sure, and a segment of the tech world that's going to be like, this guy's an idiot. I don't know. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think another piece of this, that there's just a lot in here, but the thing that sets off the most alarm bells for me is that he makes a list of enemies, and among those enemies are tech ethics, trust and safety, and risk management.
That's kind of a problem right now, especially.
Yeah. And I just think we've seen so many times how, particularly like I cover social media, and you see social media companies that will sort of put trust and safety on the back burner and hope that nothing goes wrong. And inevitably something always goes wrong.
Yeah. One of his points is that technology can get us out of every problem that technology has created. So the answer to problems in society and to problems with technology is more tech. Clearly that's obviously the answer. If people are wondering why should we pay any attention to this guy, Mark Andreson became famous. He wrote one of the very first browsers when he was at the National Center for Supercomputer Applications at University of Illinois Urbana, NCSA. It was called Mosaic in the 90s, and then he didn't write any of this by himself, so on a team, but then created Netscape and took it public with Jim Clark, and it was the first big tech IPO and started kind of the big tech boom in the mid-90s. He's worth, it is estimated, about $1.7 billion, and most recently he is a partner at Andreson Horowitz, which is one of the big investors. And as you say, Alex, invests not in Google, Microsoft, and Twitter, but in a lot of Web3 and crypto, actually, and little startups.
So that's really the thing that's kind of caught up to him, because as Andreson Horowitz was probably the number one pusher of all these Web3 startups.
I think they invented Web3. Yeah,
exactly. And the genre ended up to be, I would say, 95% a scam. Maybe there's 5% good in there. They seem to have done quite well from it, but there was a lot of retail investors holding the bag.
Right.
And I think the response to this big manifesto from Mark Andreson is kind of interesting, because there's been more criticism than usual from a typical Mark Andreson post. And I think that's largely because his firm has lost a lot of credibility for how vocal and full-throated they were trying to push this crypto revolution forward when there really wasn't a third web to be built on top of it. I mean, look around, there is none. And I think that's going to be something that people will hold against them for a long time.
As you said, Max Reed writes, optimism is a sign of VC crisis. It's not funny. VCs only do this when they're in extreme distress. He also asks, why is it the original image with this looks so familiar? I'm not gonna say, but anybody who's been around for more than a few years will recognize the original image, and it has been since changed. Somebody said, Mark can't do that. Maybe not.
We talked about this on Big Technology Podcast on Friday, and I have to say, Leo, it was the toughest segment I've ever had to get through just to try to describe what that image was. But I won't do it here.
Nope. Our audience knows. Our audience goes, oh, God. Kashmir, have you read this manifesto? And are you, or should we call this 95 Theses? It's almost as if he hammered this on the door of the FTC.
I mean, I feel like Mark Andreson has been feeling this way for a while now, just feeling very attacked by critics of technology. You know, he's blocked most tech journalists that I know of, including myself. You know, I think there's just a certain segment of the kind of tech proponent community who thinks that there's too much criticism of technology. And I think it's fair to a certain extent. Technology is the platform for everything in the world now, you know, the way we work, the way we live, the way we communicate. So all of society's ills are kind of viewed through technology, and technology comes, you know, is blamed for many things that happen. But yeah, the idea of just getting rid of tech ethics, getting rid of trust and safety, that these are the problems, it does seem ridiculous to me. I love my garage door opener. I love a lot of technologies that exist in my life. But I think we're still struggling to adapt to things like the smartphone and our addiction to it, not to mention all these seismic changes that are coming because of AI, and the idea that we should just go full throttle and just, yeah, you know, I just wrote this book about facial recognition technology. The idea of just going full throttle and not thinking about the implications is, it's certainly not new. It's been going on for a long time, but I think it's important to think about the use cases and the society that we want to live in, and not just let technology determine what it looks like.
It does read a little bit like a jilted boyfriend, like, you used to love us. Why? We used to really think technology was great. What happened? You know, you should love us again. My first reaction when I read it, and I had to read it quickly because I hadn't read it before our show on Wednesday, and Jeff Jarvis brought it up, and I said, what? And so I scanned it. My immediate reaction is, it's almost like saying, you know, I just want to make more money. Would you mind get out of the way? I'm here to make money. We believe there is no material problem, and you quote this as well, Amanda, in your article, whether created by nature or technology, that cannot be solved by more technology. And I feel like, Kashmir, you brought up your garage opener. You love it, but my garage opener is a big fat pain in the butt. Because one car can work with it and the other one can't. And I spent hours on a ladder pushing the red button trying to. So to me, it's encapsulated exactly what technology was wrong with technology. It has this great promise until you really start using it, and then it can be really annoying.
It's buggy. There's a lot of bugs.
It's buggy.
Yes.
But you guys both like your garage openers, right? So it's like,
well, I wouldn't want to have to get out of the car and open the garage by hand.
What are you complaining about?
Yeah, that's true. But I can only get in one side. Because it doesn't. Anyway,
I remember when hackers had figured out how to hack everyone's garage doors, and they were just opening them up and going into people's homes that way.
Let's talk about your book. Your Face Belongs to Us. This is your first, Kashmir?
Yeah, this is my first.
Congratulations.
Real technology book. Thank you.
That's great. What, you had written about other stuff before?
Well, when I was at Forbes, they turned my Bitcoin survival guide into an ebook. When I lived on Bitcoin back in 2013, back when Mark Andreson was really excited about it.
So you're a Bitcoin bro too. Good.
Yeah. Well, my takeaway after living on Bitcoin was, wow, this is useful technology perhaps, but there is no utility at all to this as a payment method. This is purely speculative and will go away. So shows what I know.
Oh, you actually tried to survive on it. This is something that they make you do at the New York Times. This is my favorite one. I tried to live without the tech giants. You try to literally get Apple, Google, Facebook, and Amazon out of your life. That was even worse than the Bitcoin problem.
Yes, this is pre-New York Times, but yes, I tried to cut the big tech giants to show how difficult it is, because I was always hearing from people all the time when we are making these complaints about technology that Google had done something wrong or Facebook was doing something that was annoying. People would say, these are free products, you don't have to use them.
Yeah. Good luck.
Just don't use them if you're such a critic of them. And so I tried and just showed how Google is woven into everything that you do on the web. It is literally impossible to avoid Amazon because AWS is hosting most of the tech out there. So yes, I showed that. Yeah, it was hell to try to live without them.
Just block as you tried your AWS on your router and see how far you get on the internet these days. Not very far at all. So your face belongs to us. A secretive startup's quest to end privacy as we know it. Is it about Clearview? I haven't read it yet. They didn't send me a copy. Is it about Clearview?
Well, I'll get you a copy. It is about Clearview AI and about the rise of facial recognition technology. I kind of went back to talk to all these early engineers who were working on it, in the 80s and 90s, and the policymakers trying to pass laws, getting ready for it, some successful, most not, and about Google and Facebook and all the different players that were trying to get computers to solve this incredible problem to recognize people's faces. And thanks to AI, they've gotten very good at it. Now we have to deal with the consequences.
Your timing was almost as good as Michael Lewis's timing in betting himself with SBF. It was because Clearview AI was hot until it was not.
Well, they're still around. Just signed another year-long contract with the Department of Homeland Security.
Oh, good.
Still working with the police. Just announced that. Well, they didn't announce. I guess they'd done this for a while, and I just noticed it. But they're not honoring requests from Europe anymore to delete Europeans under GDPR, and they're just continuing.
How
to
do they get away with that?
Database. They have 30 billion faces now in their database.
Much of it's scraped, right, from the public internet, or no?
Scraped and bought from contractors. Wonton Tat, the technical co-founder, basically says, I'll take faces wherever they come from, and sometimes has used good old Bitcoin or Ether to pay for it. Yeah,
I remember when he was nobody knew, he was kind of secretive, right? Were you were the person who got the interview with him, weren't you? Yeah.
Yes.
You met him not in a parking garage, but practically.
Yeah. So when I first heard about Clearview AI, they had not been reported on yet, and the company was not keen to be reported on. So they were doing all these things to try to get me to go away, including putting an alert on my face.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all coming back to me now. Oh, this is going to be a good book.
It is. It is a little dramatic.
So they they retaliated by, no, because they didn't want you to think they had your face in their database, right?
Well, they put an alert on my face. They wouldn't talk to me. No one affiliated would. Peter Thiel wouldn't return my calls. Paul Clement, this lawyer, had written this memo for them, for the police, to tell police it was perfectly legal to use this app, which wasn't totally true. So I started talking to police officers, and they would be really excited to talk to me at first because they wanted to tell me about Clearview AI and how well it worked and how it worked like nothing police had used before. And then they would offer to run a search of my face so that they could show me the results. And then every time they would stop talking to me, one of them told me I didn't have any results. And it turned out that Clearview had an alert on my face. When a police officer uploaded my face, they would call the police officer and tell them, don't talk to her, we'll deactivate your app, for doing this. And
we will kick you out.
Chilling.
We will not allow your police department to use Clearview if you talk to this reporter.
They didn't want anyone talking to me. So it's kind of chilling because it showed me Clearview AI can see everyone law enforcement is searching for and control whether they're findable. And then it's, it was kind of an early warning of how facial recognition technology can get used to monitor, investigative journalists or lawyers like Madison Square Garden, the events venue in New York City that has started barring all lawyers. Yeah, James Dolan. He doesn't like lawyers. They're annoying. They cost him a lot of money. So when anybody who works at a firm that has sued him tries to get into MSG now or Beacon Theater or the Radio City Music Hall to see the Rockettes with their Girl Scouts troop, they get kicked out at the door. So it just kind of shows the power of facial recognition.
And yet,
but tech is always good.
Yeah, tech's great. Go, let's use more of it. The fix for this bad problem is to use more of it. Isn't that obvious? So I just figured after reading your exposés of this and what a terrifyingly bad company this was, that they would be gone. They're not only are they not gone, they're bigger than ever. There was no consequence. Right?
They did investigations launched into them. They have spent a lot of money on lawyers, including Floyd Abrams, because they made the First Amendment defense. So they have a First Amendment right to scrape all this public information from the internet and make it searchable, just like Google.
He was the Citizens United advocate that won that case in the Supreme Court. Wow. But where do they stand right now? They're in the clear, so to speak?
So they were investigated by a lot of privacy regulators around the world who said that what they did was illegal. So they kind of pulled back and they're only working in the United States. They're dealing with a few lawsuits here in California and Illinois and Vermont. But for the most part, they've just, continued offering their services to police and they're still there. And, they herald this change, this ability for pretty small actors to do something very powerful with this technology. And so now there's copycats. There's other public face search engines that are not restricted to the police that are available to anybody. And so I feel like we're crossing that line where this could just get out there and be everywhere unless we pull it back. And I think it'd be kind of, I don't really want to live in a world where you're identifiable all the time, everywhere you go, everything you do. I think that would be a very chilling world to live in. Do we know who uses Clear AI? For instance, when you now fly in many airports, the ticket check-in will be face recognition. Mm-hmm. Is that Clearview AI? So there's many different facial recognition technology companies. Clearview AI is not that one. What's different about Clearview AI is they kind of brought to the table this huge database of 30 billion faces. Most of the other companies say, okay, here's an algorithm, you bring the database. So what's happening at the airport is either the airline, has your photo, or it's running through the TSA. And yeah, I can be very convenient. I talk about going to London because I went there to do some reporting for the book. And I landed at Heathrow, and instead of waiting for 3 hours in line at customs, I just walk up to a kiosk, put my passport on the scanner. There's a biometric chip in your passport. I look into a camera and it just matches, me to my passport, and I just walk in. So there's conveniences to this, but I think that I like using the scanner, but that doesn't mean that once I get to the UK, I want to be tracked, everywhere where I go by surveillance cameras that make it possible to follow me and see who I talk to. And UK is kind of on the brink of that. It's convenient unless you try to opt out. If you say, and which you technically legally allowed to do, if you say, no, do something else, good luck. They're going to go. They don't like that. Honestly, I just do it. I think I'm probably not alone. At Disneyland, on the cruise ships, at the airport, everywhere. They're starting to, Amazon Go stores, right? It's everywhere. I mean, I think, yes, it's there in terms of here's this token to allow you to access this service. But I think that's very different from you're easily identifiable when you're at a protest. So I've been thinking a lot about it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like I've been thinking about it with all these students right now at campuses across the country who are protesting and, being there and their faces are showing and they're saying whether they're for Israel or they're for Gaza. And you have these employers right now who are revoking some people's, job offers because of their political activity. And with these tools that exist now, you could take a photo of a bunch of student protesters and you can go run their photo and know what their names. And if there are these kinds of consequences for that political activity, it happens like that. And I really do think that is chilling, and it will change our ability to express our opinions and, do things that are embarrassing in public because it will so easily be able to be tracked back to you by either a government or a company or just normal people if we all have an app like this on our phones.
So it's a really important distinction. So when I use Clear, for instance, at the airport, I think I give them an iris scan, actually, as well as face. But that's a private database that they're matching with my subsequent appearances there. Oh, yeah, that's him. We've already verified that person. That's not a now public database. It can't... Do we know that these private companies that are doing this kind of data collection are not sharing it with companies that do things like Clearview, where they have a massive database and they match pictures in the public with that database? In other words, should I worry about using, let's say, Clear?
Well, I'm sure you've read the terms of service, so you know exactly what they're doing with your data.
I know exactly what they're doing, maybe I should go back and look at that. Yeah.
But I think there's a difference between facial recognition for your convenience to get a benefit versus it getting used against you, like by Madison Square Garden because you're a lawyer and they don't want you to go in there.
I want to go to the MSG Sphere in Vegas, but now I think James Dolan may keep me out.
Don't say anything bad about him if you want to get in there.
Love the Dolans. I think they are great stewards of the nation's concert and hockey venues. Alex, what do you do when faced with Go Knicks. When faced with face recognition? Do you decline?
No, I mean, I'll use it. I think at this point, like it's one tool in a handful that companies just have to track us. And, I don't know. I think that I'm going to try to make decisions. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a crazy thing to say, but I'm not going to make decisions that are going to get me on the wrong end of these tools. And honestly, I think that James Dolan has a right to prohibit lawyers who are suing him from coming into his venue.
Well, what about somebody who works for a firm but isn't suing him, like that mom and her Girl Scout troop who had to stand outside where they went to watch the Rockettes? She wasn't suing him. I guess he has the right to. He owns it.
Right. His business will face consequences from it because he's never going to go to MSG. He
might lose his liquor license.
If you're using it, if you're using it in this manner, then maybe you'll be fine when Taylor Swift comes to town, but there are going to be moments where you're going to need to get butts in the seats and you're not going to be able to do it. I mean, and look at the popularity of the Knicks. It's just gone down the drain with him as the owner. So
really?
I think these strong arm tactics, they end up, coming back to haunt you. And in terms of job loss, I think it's an important point to talk about for a moment because, my understanding is that no one's lost, and maybe I could be wrong, so maybe Cash can help me figure this one out. I don't think anyone's lost a job for a political stance that they've taken. I think the people that have been fired over the past 2 weeks have lost their job offers, and there's one that I'm sure of for explicit support of terrorism, which is completely different than having a different
how about the case of Patty Cosgrove, CEO of Web Summit?
Let's talk about this.
Because he says, or he wrote on X, which is, first of all, can I just say, people stop tweeting. Just stop. There's no good ever came of that, no matter what you say.
Good life advice generally for everybody.
He was shocked, he says, on X, at the rhetoric of Western leaders and governments in response to Israel's bombardment of Gaza. Quote, war crimes are war crimes even when committed by allies and should be called out for what they are. By the way, That doesn't seem to be a false statement to me. Nor is it even saying I support Hamas. It's not saying I support Hamas. Nevertheless, he had to resign, and he did because a lot of the people who were going to Wed Summit dropped out. I don't want to get in trouble, but I think that what he said sounds completely reasonable. A war crime is a war crime, regardless of who commits it. He says we condemn the attacks by Hamas, but we're devastated to see the terrible killings and the level of innocent civilian casualties in Israel and Gaza. In Israel and Gaza. That doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, I think in a lot of the online discourse around this, it feels like people aren't totally leaving space for the nuance that Hamas is not the people who live in Gaza, and the Israeli government is not the people who live in Israel or Jewish people. And there is a lot of nuance there. And I think sometimes the internet's been a weird place lately. Let's just say that.
Yeah, my daughter's 31, and she says, because I ask her whenever social stuff comes up, because I'm an old man, I don't know. And she says, there's so much subtlety and so much history. Everybody feels like they have to have a hot take, but very, very few people actually have the knowledge to have any take at all on this. They don't have a dog in this hunt, but there's and you see this everywhere. There's incredible social pressure and other kinds of pressure, economic pressure to take a stand one way or the other.
So I have a perspective on this. I'm planning to go to Web Summit this year. I know Patty for years at this point, and I would tend to agree. I do not think he should have had to step down, or there should have been, this level of reaction to what he did. Now, listen, I think that what he did in a few of the tweets, like you're right, like you don't really need a tweet, especially on the day of the attack.
It's this hot 7th. Take thing it's a dumb thing to do. Sit back, listen, and learn. You don't have to express your opinion the first thing out of the gate.
And I think that commenting on, the potential for war crimes or commenting on about the lives of innocent civilians, totally in bounds. And nothing to the extent of what we've seen over the past year. I mean, I'm ashamed, Cornell, where I went to school, there was a professor who stood there in the middle of the rally talking about the October 7th attacks and talked about how he was exhilarated by them.
Well, that's sad.
And that's not an isolated comment.
That's just nuts.
This stuff is happening all over the place.
Nobody should be exhilarated by commandos coming in and killing people at a music festival. That's appalling. That's as bad as
right.
Yeah.
So I think after those attacks happen, there's discussion to be had about the war, because it's not. It goes attacks, war. Talk about to say there was a reason why the September 11th attacks happened, or to say you were exhilarated by the attacks, out of bounds. To talk about the human cost of life when it comes to the response, totally in bounds. And I think that's what Patty was doing. Now, if you're an Israeli, you might say Patty responded in this way so quickly before the bodies were even cold that you don't want to participate in Web Summit. I think that is a rational, or that's an understandable response. But like I said, I'm planning to go. I don't think that, weighing in on the conflict, the way he did is cancelable offense, so to speak. And it has been interesting to kind of see it play out.
I also feel like a lot of people, especially companies, respond not out of any strong philosophical point of view or moral or ethical point of view, but because they're worried about they're worried about getting canceled themselves. And I'm not one of those people who talks about cancel culture, because that's been a kind of a BS tagline for many years. But he definitely got canceled.
But he still owns 80 something % of Web Summit, so he'll be okay.
I think we're really seeing how social media changes the way that we talk about these global conflicts. Already, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Elon Musk did not own Twitter. It's a completely different platform now with completely different platform guidelines. Not completely different, but like substantially different. And even just in like a year and a half, the way that people are using social media to communicate about war is changing. And that's really interesting and scary. Like, I feel like TikTok, even like people posting from war zones, is not something that we saw before the Russia-Ukraine war started.
Well, and then there's this issue of disinformation. And it's been very hard to disambiguate the real information from the disinformation, even among well-known media sources. I don't know what's true or what's not.
Yeah, I think I'm biased, but I think we just keep coming back to the fact of maybe growing technology as fast as you can with no regard for how it impacts people is maybe bad. And maybe releasing these really, really sophisticated generative AI models into the wild.
Oh my God.
It's
just beginning.
Maybe there should have been a little more regulation there. I don't know. Well,
I'm not sure I'm a fan of regulation either. This is why it's so difficult. Should Clearview AI be going to jail, Kashmir Hill? Should the founders and the people behind it, should they be in trouble?
I mean, I think they have evolved to using it in a somewhat responsible way in terms of putting it in the hands only of law enforcement to use it to solve crimes. Even then, though, do we want every time police are looking to solve, a crime in some part of the United States, they're going through a lineup of 30 billion faces, including probably all of us. Is that appropriate? Is that an appropriate search to search everyone in the world to solve a shoplifting crime?
Yeah, that might be disproportionate. Yes.
And sometimes it's going to go wrong.
You mentioned Taylor Swift. This is the counterexample I always use. She has stalkers, of course. She has used face recognition at her concerts to keep people known who are problematic out. Now, probably it also extends to people who are innocent but look the same, or maybe they're people of color, so face recognition doesn't work for them. But I think she has the right to do that, and it may be the most effective way, short of having hundreds of people at every entrance scanning the audience. I mean, you do it with humans. Why not do it with AI? Maybe it's even better. I don't know if she used Clearview or not, but that's the kind of thing Clearview is used for.
I mean, I do think that there are beneficial uses of facial recognition technology. Clearly, the Taylor Swift, monitor for stalkers, monitor for security threats. This is exactly why Madison Square Garden first installed facial recognition technology. They installed it in 2018 around the Emmys. And I'm sure part of it was looking for people who were there in a kind of stalkery context. They also look for people who are violent in the stadium. But, you get function creep, you get surveillance creep. It starts out as, let's use this for security threats. And then it's like, well, also, it would be great to keep the lawyers out. I think China is the greatest example of this. They have rolled out facial recognition technology far more widely than we have here in the United States to address security threats.
But also,
security threats are sometimes Uyghur Muslims and human rights abuses, or using it to monitor the protesters in Hong Kong who were opposed to kind of the expansion of mainland power.
Or jaywalkers, right?
And then they start using it for jaywalkers. Yeah. They start using it. There's one city that didn't want people wearing pajamas in public. So they're using facial recognition technology to name and publicly shame on social media people who wear pajamas.
Use of facial recognition, by the way.
They started using it.
I think everyone should wear purple velvet tuxedos when they go out in public. That's all I'm saying.
I think, let's do it.
Public restroom, they're having a problem with toilet paper thieves. So they installed facial recognition cameras there. So you have to look at it. You get a little bit of toilet paper. And if you want more, you need to wait 7 minutes. So it's just once you start rolling this out, Where do you stop? And that is where I do think regulation or laws or policies or social norms need to be kind of put in place to keep this from just being everywhere all the time in a chilling and very, authoritarian, creepy way. Like, I don't want to live in a world where I have to look at a facial recognition camera to get toilet paper.
Kashmir Hill is here. Her book is Your Face Belongs to Us, a secretive startup's quest to end privacy as we know it. You know, it's not just one company in that business, but they're a big one, Clearview AI. Also from Big Technology, the podcast and the Substack, the great Alex Kantrowitz. Great to see you, Alex. And
great to be here.
TechCrunch, she's in charge of culture. Senior culture writer, Amanda Silberling. Great to have you. Lots more to talk about in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor, Nureva, N-U-R-E-V-A. Nureva Meeting Room Audio Technology. Now, I have to say, if you have a meeting room, a big room or a lecture hall, you've probably looked at all sorts of expensive solutions requiring companies to come in, do an assay, run lots of wires, lots of technicians, constantly getting it tuned. That is an awfully expensive way to go. Maybe you should do what Duquesne University did. Duquesne has 100 Nureva devices installed. One of their senior technologists recently said, quote, "I cannot say enough about how impressed I am by Nureva. Audio has been my life's work for 30 years, and I'm amazed at what a Nureva mic and speaker bar will do." Now, if you've got a big room, a huge room, a lecture hall, or a huddle room, you should take a look at the new Nureva Pro Series featuring the HDL 310 for large rooms and the HDL 410 for extra large rooms. For the first time, you get pro audio performance and plug-and-play simplicity in the same system. And what's the secret? The patented microphone mist technology, which puts thousands of virtual microphones everywhere in the room. So everyone can be heard clearly. If you're in a situation, as many businesses, ours included, are where there are people at home, it's hybrid, and there are people at work, and we want to have conference calls. Now everybody can be heard no matter where they're facing. They can move around. It's comfortable, but they can be heard clearly. For the first time, you can get pro audio performance and plug-and-play simplicity in the same system. Nureva amazes everybody who listens to it. That's why I want you to go to the website and take a listen. Nureva.com/twit and get the demo. Their online demo highlights the Nureva audio expert being heard clearly. He gets under a table, behind a pillar. It doesn't matter. It's pickup performance because of this microphone mist technology. The HDL 410 covers up to 35 feet by 55 feet, and it does it with just 2 mics and speaker bars. So it's just like installing a little, one of those speaker bars under your TV. It's like installing that on the wall. You could do it yourself in about half an hour. The microphones are built into that. So you get the speakers and the microphone in one unit. In fact, it's really cool because with the HDL 410, you get 2, which means you get this extra large meeting room or lecture hall with just 2 of these devices. But if it's a divisible room, you can pull the divider and you can use them separately, individually. So it's very flexible. The HDL 410 also features a unified coverage map, which processes mic pickup from the 2 devices simultaneously. So now you've got one giant single mic array. A little bit smaller room, say 30 feet by 30 feet. One speaker, mic and speaker bar will do it. The HDL 310 takes about 30 minutes to install. You got 2 of them. It's about an hour for the 410. And it continuously auto-calibrates. You don't need a technician to come set it up. In fact, your IT department can run it from their desk using the Nureva console. It's a cloud-based device management platform. Firmware updates, checking device status, changing settings, and all can be done right from your desk. And by continuously auto-calibrating, it's always adapting, so you can move stuff around in the room, you can move people around in the room, you can draw the divider, whatever. It still works. It readjusts automatically. This is where technology can really improve your meeting space. With the Pro Series, bottom line, with the Pro Series, Nureva makes it simple to quickly and cost-effectively equip one or more of your spaces for remote collaboration. Learn more at nureva.com/twit. Listen to that demo. NUREVA.com/twit. patreon.com/TWiT. We thank him so much for supporting our show this week in tech. You actually, I kind of glossed over it a minute, but you did make a really excellent point, which a lot of this happens because we use social media so much. Gallup poll just did a survey of 1,500 teens, adolescents they call them. Just over half, 51%, say they spend at least 4 hours a day on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or X. 4 hours a day. Across age groups, the average time spent on social media ranges from as low as 4.1 hours a day for 13-year-olds to 5.8 hours a day for 17-year-olds. Girls spend more than boys on social media, 5.3 hours average versus 4.4 averages. You can see the whole breakdown here. This is from the Familial and Adolescent Health Survey Gallup conducted last summer. Actually, sometimes I think these numbers are low.
I think they're low too. They're self-reported, I notice. It's not like they have access to the screen time reports for their devices.
I spend 4 hours, Yeah, get the screen time. It's more. I mean, even my screen time is more. You have
2005.
Go ahead.
2005, 2006, Nielsen numbers had teens watching, 4 hours and 35 minutes a day of television. And in 2019, it was 62%. 4 hours a day on screen media from teens. So this is sort of tracking, like you go to school and then you have a period of time that doesn't include eating dinner with your family, assuming you do that, and that's your screen time. And then you go to bed. It's just shifted from TV to screens.
I remember 15 years ago, my daughter doing her homework with a chat room open on AOL and a group voice calls going on at the same time. So I guess you could be doing your homework and having some screen time.
Now the AI is doing the homework for them.
Oh yeah, that makes it a lot easier. Yeah. Is it? I mean, is this a problem or not? I don't want to be. There's so many scare stories. About, young girls and adolescents are having so many social problems and mental health problems because of their extensive time on social media. I mean, honestly, you don't know why. It might be just because they're thinking climate change is going to ruin their lives. Maybe that's what's bothering them. We don't know what it is. And maybe they're not even bothered. I don't know.
I think there's really benefits and drawbacks of social media where there are a lot of cases when we have very much seen the documented impact of is Facebook and Instagram making teen girls depressed? Or I don't think I need to make the argument that social media has its drawbacks, but I do think there are points in which social media can be used to bring people together and people form community on social media. And that's something that I think kind of gets under discussed, but it really kind of is a minefield because, okay, maybe you form community on social media and then someone in the community turns out to be an unsavory person who you do not want to be talking to.
Right.
And that's why we need trust and safety, Mark Andreson.
Oh, yeah, he says we don't need that. We don't need trust. By the way, Elon says we don't need it either. According to The Verge, blue check marks on X are super spreaders of misinformation about the war. The verified ones. The verified ones. Actually, they're quoting a study by NewsGuard, a for-profit organization that rates the trustworthiness of news sites. They analyzed the 250 most engaged posts on X between the 7th and the 14th that promoted incorrect or unverified information. And verified X accounts were 74% of the misinformation. I'm not surprised at all. Which kind of makes you wonder what Elon's plan, the not a bot $1 charge, $1 a year charge, is going to do. If people are willing to spend $8 to spread disinformation a month, Elon thinks them spending $1 a year is going to stop the bots?
I've always been in favor of having, people pay or get cut in on the revenue of a social media site. If you're a user and you're producing content for that site, you should get part of the reward when things go well. and you create value for the site. But Leo, I think what you're talking about here, this spreading of misinformation from blue checks, is so important, because what's happened is once Elon has cut the users in on the revenue, they're doing whatever they can to get those views. And it's sort of proven my entire thesis wrong, because what's happened is it's been an incentive to spread something incendiary, outrage-inducing, fake, as long as you get those sweet, sweet views, because those views lead to dollars. And when you think about the misinformation problem that Twitter has right now, it's largely due to the incentive. People respond to the incentives. The incentives are money. And that's why you're seeing this headline.
That's a great insight. Engagement has always been the premium on Twitter, even before there was money to be made. And the way you get people to engage is by outraging them. And so that's always been a problem at Twitter. Now, by charging $8 and giving you a chance to make that money back, you're actually amplifying this trend and making it worse. Is that
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's it exactly.
Are people actually getting those checks though?
Oh, for $8 you can get one. Anybody can get one. Actually, wait a minute. The New York Times just lost its check.
I thought they were giving checks originally, or they're, giving money to people originally, but then it kind of
there were a lot of
weren't actually getting paid.
Promises were made, shall we say?
Alex makes a great point though, because I do think I will criticize Elon Musk up the wazoo. Is that the phrase? I don't know. But I do think that the revenue share that he has been doing is actually
it's the wrong direction,
really
wrong
good
incentive.
practice.
Yeah.
But then now, because of the thing where if you have a blue check, you get promoted in replies. If you're someone who is a spammer or a scammer and you're trying to make money off of Twitter, it's you're incentivized to have more engagement. And then you see this even on the Twitter, this is just an example, but on the Phillies Twitter, they will post pictures of the players walking into the clubhouse. And sometimes they're wearing fun Phillies t-shirts. And if you reply to that tweet saying anything, you get replied by 10 blue check accounts that are here's where you can buy the shirt.
Oh,
and they're just kind of going on, I don't know, Threadless, whatever those websites are, the print on demand.
Red Button.
And this is how people are trying to make money.
Yeah.
So people do the same thing with misinformation.
Right.
And it's not unique to RevShare. I mean, this has been happening on Facebook forever with disinformation, because it's how you get people to click and show them ads. And this is the monetization of the internet is extremism, outrage, and apparently misinformation, disinformation works.
The New York Times, your publication, had a gold verification badge until Thursday, when Elon revoked it because he's pissed off. The Washington Post reported that they have their gold check mark still, so I can trust them. The Post wrote, the move further extends Musk's attempts to use the social media company he bought with claims of defending free speech to undercut news organizations he dislikes. Do you have any opinion about that, New York Times writer?
I can offer no special insight or comment on this. I will just say I think the New York Times is a great news source. It deserves all the gold checks, and you should definitely subscribe, and follow the New York Times.
It's got a gold check in my book, I'll tell you right now.
I was a subscriber before I worked there. I'm a big fan of the New York Times.
I've been a subscriber forever. In fact, my mom, who's just moved into assisted living, she's 90, loves the crossword puzzle, so I got her the Sunday Times because that keeps her busy all week. And she gets the paper, which there's a ritual of getting. If I didn't work every Sunday, I'd probably do it too. About getting the Sunday Times, pouring through it. Takes you all day to read it. Then you do the crossword puzzle.
Now the ritual is waking up and doing the Wordle. And now there's connections.
Weren't they smart? Weren't they smart to buy Wordle? That was so smart. Yep.
They were.
People still Wordle?
Oh.
They do. But I feel the New York Times has actually made a lot of money off of that.
Because they didn't pay that much for it, sure.
Yeah, in past earnings reports, they've said that the gaming section has had a big increase in revenue since buying Wordle. So good for them, I guess.
Yeah, the New York Times has been very smart when it comes to kind of diversifying beyond news, like the games, the cooking app.
I pay for the cooking app separate. Yep.
Yeah,
Wirecutter too. No, in fact, everybody agrees this is the digital strategy to emulate. Very few newspapers have made it into the 21st century, let alone succeeded as well as the New York Times. The Washington Post just laid off 260 people. You'd think with Jeff Bezos as the owner, either they would just keep paying them because he has infinite money, or B, they'd figure out a good digital strategy. But no, the Times is the one that's figured it all out. That's how come Kashmir Herald works there. Kashmir, I know you got to get going because your kids are right at the limit. I think the timer is going off right now on their screen time. But I want to thank you so much.
Oh, you're so good, Leo.
For joining us. The book, Your Face Belongs to Us, A Secretive Startup's Quest to End Privacy as We Know It. Kashmir's been on this Clearview AI beat since day one. You're the one who revealed who they were and who this founder was and the whole story.
I did. They're a fascinating company. I mean, the characters right in this book. I read a lot of Michael Lewis and David Gran to get ready to write this, and they are just a fascinating group of strange characters. It felt like writing fiction sometimes. Just the how they did this, how they put together this company, and did what other companies weren't willing to do. It was quite a story, and I was happy to tell it.
And really, they always say that. Newspapers are the first draft of history. This is, I think, a book that people will read in the future to see exactly how it all went to hell. Where it all began. Kashmir, thank you so much for joining us. We rely on your reporting. We spend more time talking about Kashmir Hill stories here than almost anybody else. I really appreciate the work you do. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
All right. Take care. Your face belongs to us. We're going to take a little break. We're going to rearrange the screens so I can be surrounded by Amanda and Alex, and then we'll continue in just a little bit with the show. I am wearing my special socks. I would show you, but you're just going to have to take my word for it. My Mint Mobile socks. Mint Mobile is awesome. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills. Did you see your new Netflix price? Your favorite streaming services? Prices are going up everywhere. But there's one place where the inflation isn't in the dollars, it's in the amount of data you get for the same amount of money. I'm talking Mint Mobile, the one company that's given you a much-needed break. The first company to sell premium wireless service online only. Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton. Phone plans at Mint Mobile start at $15 a month. Now, wait a minute. Hold on there. I know what you're thinking. That can't possibly be right. Go look at your cell phone bill. I'm sure it's $70, $80, $90, $100 a month, or a lot more even. If you've got a family plan, definitely a lot more. How can they do it for $15 a month? I don't know, but they do. They say eliminating the traditional costs of retail because they don't have stores, so they can pass those savings on to you. But I think they're just smart. They're just smart. They are a digital-first wireless company. All plans come with by the way, you're not giving up anything. Unlimited talk and text and high-speed data on the nation's largest 5G network. I'll tell you a secret just between you and me. T-Mobile. So if T-Mobile works for you, save a lot of money. Get Mint Mobile. You can bring your own phone. They'll send you the SIM, or you can use an eSIM, no charge. Move your phone over. Keep the phone number if you want. They'll port it over for you. Very easy, very fast. And if you use your own phone, obviously all your contacts go along with you. But they also sell phones at a great price. So let me tell you, this is the way to go. Mint Mobile. I've been a Mint Mobile customer for 3 or 4 years now. It makes me wonder why I spend money on all the other services. I have to have them all because I was testing them. But really, when you compare the bills, there's just no comparison. Premium wireless service starting at $15 a month. It's the best. Get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month. Get the plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/twit. I don't think I could show you these socks, but they're very, very attractive. Mintmobile.com TWiT. It's been a long time since I've been able to get my leg up that high. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. Mintmobile.com/twit. We thank him so much for supporting This Week in Tech. In fact, I'm just looking at the chat room. There are a lot of people who love Mint Mobile. Then there's the one guy saying, why are you dressed like Willy Wonka? So, there's that too. Amanda Silberling is here. She writes about culture and tech at the wonderful TechCrunch, colleague of our good friend, Alex Wilhelm. Alex Kantrowitz is also here. He is Big Technology, bigtechnology.com, Big Technology, also the Big Technology podcast.
That's how you say it.
Big Tech. You interview so many great people on that show. I'm always jealous, thinking, wow, how'd you get them? You interview the biggies? Good job.
Had a good time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good job. Your most recent podcast, you talk about Jon Stewart.
Oh, yes.
Interesting story.
He and Apple are parting ways, potentially over some content that he had that was China related, and Apple wasn't so happy about that. And that's happening as there's this Belt and Road summit that China's putting on, where they're trying to, enhance this multipolar world where Xi and Putin are hanging out, and of course Apple is stuck in the middle, where they are in the United States. And they need China. 20% of the revenue comes from China. And, we've seen little bits and pieces of that relationship being kind of tugged apart as as China and the United States are at odds. And so we discussed that, on the show, talking a little bit about where does Apple go if we really are in a multipolar world. And it's not going to be pretty for them. It's going to be tough.
I guess the Times had sources inside, because he talked to members of his staff on Thursday. The Times says Stewart and Apple executives had disagreements over some of the topics and guests on the show. The show is The Problem with Jon Stewart, according to two people that they talked to. Stewart told members of his staff on Thursday that it was topics related to China and artificial intelligence that were concerned. Now, he has, I thought, creative control of his show, right? He would never have signed this deal without it. And the story is he has creative control. So can't he just say, well, thanks for the notes, I'm going right ahead?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that's what happened, where he's like, no, I'm doing it the way that I want to. And then Apple's like, we're done.
Oh,
and the show was rated low anyway. Yeah. So clearly this was a red line they didn't want to step over, criticizing China, because that could have, I don't know, Leo, if you recall, but a few weeks ago, China told government employees and some agencies that they should not be using iPhones in their offices. And that was a signal to people across China that if you have national pride, you use the phones made in China. And Huawei is now the most popular phone in China, not the iPhone. And that, so again,
Apple stock
is just furthering tension.
Took a rare tumble when that news came out that the government employees weren't allowed to use the iPhone in China.
People saw how serious that was. Yeah. Absolutely.
First of all, a lot of people in China work for the government. I guess not surprising. And so it was really a big hit on Apple's revenue, because, frankly, the iPhone is kind of stagnated everywhere but China. Maybe India is another big area where they could make gains. Apple needs that. But at the same time, if Apple, this is why I really don't like it that Google owns YouTube, that Apple owns a content arm. This is where it's problematic, right? Because you're not going to get reliable news at a corporate media if they're in a bunch of different businesses.
Especially not about China if you're watching Apple TV, that's for sure. Guess I have to cancel my vacation to Beijing now. But no, seriously, it's a real issue.
Just use a VPN. Oh, never mind. Guess you won't be doing that either. You probably, Apple has not commented, and probably if they were to comment, they could say, well, have you seen the ratings? Of course we canceled it. Good ratings.
Yeah, one way to insulate. If it was Ted Lasso, it would be something different.
Yeah, exactly.
That show has been bad. Like, it doesn't pace very well. We talked about this on the show Friday, but it doesn't pace well. It doesn't seem very well thought out. It doesn't try to emulate some of the magic that Jon Stewart had in his first go around at The Daily Show. It seems like a show by someone who's out of touch, who's been given a lot of money by Apple, and they say, do whatever you want. And they ride that and don't respect what the audience wants.
I loved The Daily Show. I loved him on The Daily Show. I have not watched one episode of The Problem, and I'm sure I'm not alone on that.
Yeah, he did some good stuff. He had a great interview with Bob Iger, but overall it was underwhelming.
Some critics found Stewart's, this is from CNN, who's probably, laughing. Some critics found Stewart's early guests boring, including former Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner and SEC Chair Gary Gensler. Others called it an angrier, less funny version of The Daily Show.
That was accurate for sure.
What does it say about me that I'm like, oh, Gary Gensler, that sounds like an interesting
I
interview.
know. I thought that's too good. Those are good guests. I'd be happy.
That was a good interview, actually.
Yeah. But
I'll have to go listen to it.
You know what? It's not mainstream. That's the problem. It's not mainstream. You also had Molly White on your show talking about SBF. She's great. She wrote the, what is it? Web3 is going just fine website.
Right.
Web3 is going great.
It's going
And
great.
She is great.
Oh,
Molly is a brilliant analyst. And I spent 2 days downtown in Manhattan. It was just a few subways stops away. In the courtroom, in the courthouse was an overflow room watching the case, the SBF case, as it went down. So 2 days there, I watched Caroline Ellison testify against him.
yikes.
And then I was like, this is an episode, like not only did I write about it for Big Technology, but I DM'd Molly and I said, please come on and speak with me about what I've seen, because I have a decent amount of knowledge, but to be able to riff on that with someone like Molly, who's so deep into it, was terrific. And we got into some really weird and interesting places, like the spot that the effective altruism movement is in now, because they put so much of their weight behind Sam Bankman-Fried, and now
Turns out he
what
was
happened there.
He was a scammer. He was a Madoff, Bernie Madoff.
Exactly, and he even told Caroline Ellison that he's a utilitarian. And this was she said, I'm a utilitarian, and that means I can lie or steal.
do whatever I want.
But
Yeah.
I can lie or steal as long as it serves my ends and my good world improving ends. And it was interesting being in this room, because there were things that Caroline Ellison said, who she was the CEO of Alameda, his ex-girlfriend, that were just so astonishing. Like you hear her make this case. Okay, all this money is flowing out of FTX, and then it's clear that this thing is going down and Sam is running out of options. So what does he come to her and suggest they do? Raise money from Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia. And when she said that MBS was the backup plan, this whole room started cracking up.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about
It's
being in the
absurd.
overflow room.
It's
You can
unbelievable.
laugh in the You can always laugh in the overflow room. There's no champagne in the overflow room, but you can always
No,
laugh.
you couldn't eat there.
Yeah.
One of the best live shows I've seen in New York to date.
Highly recommended. 4 stars, says Alex Kantrowitz. Jeff Jarvis hipped me to this. This is an acronym that Timnit Gebru and Emil Torres came up with, TESCREAL, which we were talking earlier about Mark Andreson, who's also in this group. TESCREAL is a terrible acronym. It stands for transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmism, rationalism, effective altruism, and long-termisms. All these isms have one thing in common, and it's utilitarianism. I can do whatever I want right now because I'm thinking about the future.
Right.
That's a terrible acronym.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, I admit, but it's useful because there are all these different, and by the way, Mark Andreson is absolutely in this group when he says there'll be 50 billion humans in the solar system. He's really thinking about them, not about the 7 or 8 billion here right now who are in a world of pain, a world of hurt. That's fine because we're going to solve it, and we're going to become a trans-Earth society. And it's too much. Their brains are mush from too much science fiction or something.
This stuff makes me feel crazy. Like I'm just living in a completely different world than them, where I think about a world with 50 billion people, and I'm like, we can't take care of the 8 billion or however many are currently in the world.
Right.
And
well, it's worse than that because
his point is that if we have more people, then we'll have the tech to deal with it. But that hasn't been true so far. And also it's just insane to hear people talk about colonizing Mars. And I feel like I'm living on a different planet than Silicon Valley.
Well, you are, and this is the worst thing about this test creole, which is a mosh of bunch of things, but almost all of them is people today don't matter. We need to do something for the 50 billion down the road. That we have to think about the future of the human race, which is fine, but it really allows a lot of bad behavior today. It's singularitarianism is one of them. That's the idea that the machines are going to become as smart as humans any day now with our AGI, and that's going to be it's a bunch of sci-fi is what it is. Now I love sci-fi, but I don't think it's real, and I don't think it's really a pointer to where we should be going. But people like Elon Musk and SBF, and what's his name? I'm cleverly forgotten his name. Andreson, Mark Andreson.
Yeah.
They are living in this future that isn't real.
And that's why we see these big AI statements like this call for a pause in AI development, or this statement that we must be careful about the harm that AI is going to, lead to in the long term, signed by all these people. I don't think people fully understand that this is coming out of this test creole, which I love. I never heard that term, but coming out of this ideology, this singularityism and, effective altruism. It is a belief, again, that we have to care more about the future than the present. And in there, so it might not seem like there's this imminent threat of ChatGPT, coming into your kitchen and stabbing you with a knife, but this is the thing they care about the most.
Yeah. And actually, it's a little confusing because Andreson also argues against slowing down AI. One of his points is we believe any deceleration of AI will, and get ready for this, cost lives. Deaths that were preventable by the AI that was prevented from existing is a form of murder. Only if you are worth $1.7 billion can you live in this world, in this crazy, twisted world. He's insulated from any sense of reality. Just as you said, Amanda, he never met a poor person. Or if he has, he's forgotten it. He's put it out of his mind.
Yeah, I mean, I said this in the article, and I don't live in San Francisco, but when I visit San Francisco, which only ever is for work, it's like we have TechCrunch disrupt, and there is so much wealth in this building.
Oh.
And then outside, there's homeless people. And it's just, when you go to San Francisco, I mean, there's a homelessness problem in a lot of places, but it just feels so like the juxtaposition of this immense wealth and then this immense poverty and the role that tech has played in that poverty. I know I'm on my soapbox.
No, it's true. San Francisco.
It's just hard to imagine walking around San Francisco and not seeing this.
It's the personification of that because there is such a wealth gap. And I think you're right, created by technology. I
don't know why it's just hard to convince these people to care about people that are suffering now. I think it's great if we care about people who are suffering in 100 years, but
I think they
there's also a lot of
explicitly
issues now.
don't. They explicitly say we should not worry about that because we're thinking down the road. So we don't need to worry
think that
about.
Makes sense.
No, it makes no sense. It's a fantasy world. You say at one point, Andreson makes the case that free markets prevent monopolies because the market naturally disciplines. Well, just look around you, Mark. That's not true. It's just not true. Although,
Yeah.
As you also point out, there is a AI that can play Pokemon Red.
There is. And I think this is a great use of AI.
Now this is the singularity, baby. So what's it?
No, I mean, I
50,000
thought this
hours of
was-
training? What is this?
Yeah. There's this software engineer, Peter Whitten, who just in his spare time had been working on this project where he used kind of like a Pavlovian reinforcement algorithm to train an AI to play Pokemon Red. And
This was, by the way, this is an old game. This is the first Pokemon game, right?
Oh yeah, this one's from like the 90s, but it's just like really interesting to me. Like, I think what really struck me about this is that, so the engineer like made this 30-minute long video explaining the process. And in it, like the AI gets rewards and like loses the rewards based on certain things. Like, you want to win a battle, that gives you a reward. You want to level up your Pokemon, that gives you a reward. And one of the rewards was exploration, but the exploration is based on like the pixels on the screen moving. And there was one point where the AI just sits in a patch of grass and just watches the water move and the people are walking around him. And the AI is just like, this is great. Like, he's just enjoying nature because the exploration thing was being triggered. And I just thought that was very funny. And there was another case where the AI like experienced something akin to trauma by depositing a Pokemon into the PC, which removed the Pokemon from his party. And then there was a reward based on leveling up the total level in your party. But if you put a Pokemon away, then the total level goes down. And then the AI never wanted to go into the Pokemon Center again. This probably sounds all like gibberish if you're not familiar with Pokemon, but I just thought it was a really cool project. And it's fun to just write about like random engineer in Seattle does a cool thing.
And maybe this is human. This is kind of a human trait. It does seem emergent, doesn't it? It seems like there's emergent qualities out of playing all this Pokemon where it's starting to become kind of human.
I mean, that's what I found interesting about it is like, obviously a computer isn't actually experiencing trauma, but to see these responses that are like weirdly similar to how humans react to things, it's just interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, that's really one of the questions about AGI. We talk a lot about AGI. We have a show about AI now in our Club TWiT with Jeff Jarvis and Jason Howell. And of course on Twig, we talk a lot about it. One of the things that's kind of interesting about AI and the notion that AI could become human-like is the question about our own intelligence. Like, what is it that and I think I have an old-fashioned belief that humans are somehow different than anything a machine could ever do. There's really no evidence for that. And when you start seeing emergent properties in a machine playing Pokemon Red, where it's sitting and looking at the water, I mean, we don't know what's going on in the head of that thing. But how do we know that that's not how we got there? We don't, right? Maybe we are just the emergent properties of a bunch of neurons mushed together in a bunch of gray matter. People who believe
maybe
that
we're the computers.
Maybe we are. I know I don't want to get too weird, but that's what makes me think of.
You and Elon agree that we're in a simulation, so you found some common ground with
I don't know. That's different from being in a simulation. It's just that because for a long time, I've even had this argument with Ray Kurzweil, who's one of the guys who came up with the notion of singularity. That there's something that human beings have or do. You could call it a soul. I don't believe in the soul, but there's something unique about us that a machine can't duplicate. We have consciousness. A machine can appear to be conscious. Kurzweil, by the way, said, well, what's the difference? If we can't tell the difference between appearing to be conscious and being conscious, then what's the difference? What does it matter that there's a difference? But I've talked about this with Steve Gibson. He says, well, that's all our brains are, is advanced AIs, Anyway, I don't want to get all philosophical, but it's a fascinating subject. And I like this article. 50,000 hours. And now, does it play Pokemon Red the same way a human would? Or does it have a unique characteristics to it?
I mean, it plays a lot worse than a human would.
Okay.
I guess that's good news for humans I think a 6-year-old playing Pokemon is going to be better than this AI, but it is really hard to get it to do the things. And even talking to the developer, he had to start the game from maybe 1% into the game instead of 0% because the AI couldn't understand you have to pick a certain Pokemon that makes it easier to beat the first gym. And like,
that may also be Whitting
learns on accident.
That may also be how Whitting has trained it. Whitting has trained it, right? He may have other goals. I mean, I think this is almost an art project as much as anything else.
Yeah, and I think also this is like a much less sophisticated AI than like a massive company could make, but this is just like a guy making a thing in his spare time.
It raises fascinating issues. I've always been fascinated by the game of life and other digital automatons because they can evolve, it seems, after a while. And you really wonder if there's a distinction between them and us. It's a fascinating field. Let's talk a little bit about Qualcomm. We've got a big event coming up. As you know, Apple shocked the world with Apple Silicon. A lot of chip manufacturers looked at what Apple did with the M1 and M2 and soon M3 chips and said, wow, both in performance and most importantly, performance per watt. They just scooped everybody. Intel has had a hard time coming up with something to compete. Qualcomm says it's going to have its Apple Silicon moment with the new Snapdragon X. Tuesday will be Snapdragon Day, the Snapdragon Summit. And at noon, Qualcomm's keynote, and we are going to cover that live on the network. So we're going to start iOS today a little bit early, 8:30 on Tuesday. MacBreak Weekly will start an hour early at 10 a.m. These are all Pacific times. And at noon Pacific, we will cover the Snapdragon keynote. This could be very important because Windows runs on PCs, right? Windows on ARM, Microsoft's been kind of betting on Windows on ARM, but Windows on ARM has always run like a dog, partly because of the hardware. So the promise that a Snapdragon X might be something better than we've seen so far is very intriguing. Qualcomm acquired a company called Nuvia in 2021. Nuvia was founded by former Apple chip makers. And in fact, Apple, I think, sued them, as I remember. So Qualcomm got some very powerful technology. Apple sued Gerard Williams, who is current Qualcomm engineering SVP, for poaching Apple employees. And for some reason, Apple dropped the suit earlier this year. Maybe they felt there was no merit. But Qualcomm is going to release something interesting, and we will talk about it on Tuesday at noon Pacific, if you want to tune in for that. Any thoughts on that? I don't know if that's really not in either of your field, but go ahead, Alex. Yeah.
I just have one thought on that, which is that the market is not buying that Qualcomm is going to release anything interesting here. The S&P 500 is up about 13% in the year. Qualcomm's up 1%. It's down 6% in the past year. And it's dead money since August 2020. So,
and the market has the wisdom of the crowds, right?
Yeah, analysts are like checking, and they are checking with suppliers, and they will do whatever they can to get any bit of information on whether Qualcomm is going to make this great leap forward. And obviously, it's not resonating, and maybe that's why Apple dropped the suit. I mean, why bother? Maybe that was their perspective.
There's also the problem that people aren't buying PCs. It was a very hot market during COVID because people were working from home, and as soon as quarantine ended, PC market went through the floor and has not recovered.
It was like a 1 year span.
Yeah.
Correct. It was a 1 year span where everybody upgraded.
Right.
I mean, everybody upgraded.
And now we got it.
Sort of, you can, that thing lasts for 5 years. So it's going to be a bit of time before we're starting to see regular upgrade cycles again. Felt good then. It was a sugar high.
Amanda, I was saying earlier in the show that there was a story of yours I bookmarked, and we thought maybe it was the Mark Andreson story. No, I remember now. It was Homer Simpson singing "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
We're really getting the full breadth of my journalistic output here, from criticizing billionaires to talking about AI Homer Simpson.
I immediately, after reading this article, went to Meme Music 117 and started watching I watched way too many of these. They're on YouTube.
No, it's really funny. And basically I saw this video of Homer Simpson singing Starlight by Muse Also smells like Teen Spirit. That's what I did for the headline because that kind of is. No, you're playing it.
Yeah, he's it's Highway to Hell
Homer's
by.
got some pipes. That Homer sounds great. I mean, he can belt it.
This is actually one of his better ones. Let me.
Yeah.
Let's see which one is Teen Spirit here. I'm trying to.
I don't know. There's
How
a
about
lot of
Island
good
in the
ones.
Sun? He does a good Weezer. Listen. So what's the story? This is obviously AI Homer Simpson, right?
Yeah. So
If I were Dan
basically-
Castellaneta or whoever does his voice, I'd be pissed.
Yeah. I mean, one of the great things about writing for TechCrunch is that they will let me just write random things like this because I saw this video and it just like fascinated me. Like it made me so happy.
I lost an
Like, I just
afternoon.
thought it
I
was
blame
so
you,
funny.
Amanda.
And then so I wanted to write about it just as like, why not throw up a quick blog post about like, here's a funny thing on the internet and it's tech related and I don't know. But then the more I start thinking about it, the more it kind of just started making me sad because I don't know if at Meme Music 117 is actually just an innocent meme account. Like I'm wondering, is this sponsored by Voicify AI?
It's all with this company called Voicify AI, right?
Yeah. And I did try it out.
This is
The music.
Eye of the Tiger sung by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not as good. That's not as good. I think the Homer's better. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just sort of made me think, like, on one hand, I don't really care when I see, like, here's what John Lennon would have sounded like singing Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't, it's just like, yeah, whatever. But for some reason with fictional characters, it's like funnier. But then when you start thinking about it, like, then you think about how,
I'm gonna get taken.
Yeah, like there's a voice actor behind this.
Oh,
there's an artist behind this. And like, I don't know. And then I mentioned this in the article, but like one of my like favorite videos on the internet ever is this guy like Pro ZD on YouTube singing Evanescence Bring Me to Life as Goofy.
But this is really old. This was 9 years ago.
Yeah, but this guy does like.
That was terrible. I watched that video. That sounded awful. Amanda,
but he was being goofy.
But it was a real. It wasn't an AI.
Continue to say you like that Goofy video.
It was a real person singing that, though. That's the point, right? It wasn't an AI.
That person should be ashamed. I mean, that was bad.
I think they did a great
was
Goofy
a great
impression.
song by Evanescence, but the Goofy was not working for me.
All right, let's
I
just listen to
think-
a little bit.
Oh, no.
All right. You know, I need to take a break myself.
It won't take that long. True.
Oh, can you see?
Okay, that's enough. That's all. See, just the first few notes.
My ears.
But this person essentially, like, with the talent of voice acting, did what
That was
these
a talented
companies are
person.
doing now.
Yeah, that was really a talented person.
Yeah, that person's a
did you
great
see the
voice
talent?
actor. But I don't know. I mean, I think just the whole thing just said something. I don't know if I really came to a conclusion. It was just kind of like a quick blog post, but there's something weird happening with how we think about AI generation and art and how sometimes it's fun, but then the longer you think about it, the more it becomes like less fun.
Honestly, this is the AI I like. This is the
me
AI.
too.
I like Dolly. I like, we were on Ask the Tech Guys earlier. We had a question. It was actually an interesting question. The guy's got an old remote control that only works if he puts it in the fridge for half an hour, but it won't work at room temperature. And we weren't sure what was going on. So I asked ChatGPT and it came up with an answer. Could be right, could be wrong. That's the problem. You don't know. But it was fascinating. And it did it in Scarlett Johansson's voice. So that made me happy. And that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be any more than that. Just let's make it an amusement, okay? All right, I don't know. I don't want to lose you there, Alex. So we'll
You're not losing me.
We'll forget we
I'm
heard
back.
that.
I mean, I've definitely processed all the emotions. I've gone through the 5 stages now after I heard the Goofy song. But I agree with you. AI could be fun. I mean, Homer was good.
In like 5 minutes, it's just going to be me and Leo. Alex is going to be like, I'm out of here. They made me listen to Goofy Bring Me to Life.
We're dropping like flies out here.
All right, from the Big Technology Substack, exclusive data. Twitter, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, is shrinking under Elon Musk, except that Elon Musk and his CEO, Linda Yaccarino, keep saying it's growing. More engagement, more daily active users, more monthly active users. Where is this data from, Alex?
It's from Apptopia, which has data from more than 100 million apps and public sources, other sources. So I think it's pretty credible. It's a drop of 13%,
which isn't huge.
Actually, this is a momentous week, Leo, because on October 26, 2022, we may be quick to forget, but Elon walked into Twitter HQ with a sync.
Let that sink in.
And Sync Day is coming up. So
that's what it should be called, Sync Day from now on.
Yeah.
Sync Day.
Oh my God.
And or Shrink Day, because Twitter's down 13% in terms of daily active users since then. So it is interesting because a lot of the things have stayed consistent. Average session per day is about 15 minutes for those daily active users. There's just fewer of them. So,
happy Sync Day.
Happy Sync Day to everybody who celebrates. But yeah, it's obviously been a rough acquisition for Elon. And the thing, one more piece of data towards the bottom of the story that might be worth talking about is Threads, which some people still view as a Twitter killer. Had about 20 minutes of usage a day. So actually, the people who are daily active users of Threads who are also using Twitter were spending more time on Threads.
Oh.
But now those same users of both platforms are down to underneath 5 minutes of usage on Threads and more than 15 on Twitter.
Is there
Apptopia?
Go ahead. Is there somebody that Apptopia has nominated as a replacement, or is everybody losing? What about Blue Sky or something like that?
So here's my thing. So also only 10% of Twitter users have used Threads, according to Apptopia.
Oh, interesting.
And so the indication is that use of this type of social media is down across the board.
Yes.
I didn't ask for Blue Sky or Mastodon data. Mastodon's a little bit more difficult to measure because it's distributed, and Blue Sky I just felt was so small that it's not even registering. Apparently it's big in Germany right now. So shout out to all the German Blue Sky users. But long story short is I think that this is a mode of technology that we use because we thought it was interesting and people used it in somewhat good faith and then less good faith for a while. But their struggle is always appealing to casual users and new users. They could never do it. And it's become even harder for those, early users to get in, and the existing users are leaving. And the thing the rebrand really hurt Twitter bad. You had more than 5% month over month decline, according to Apptopia, in August and September. More than 5% of the user base shrinking. It's a lot of people.
I'm thinking maybe that part of the problem was we overestimated the importance of Twitter, because most of the people on Twitter were journalists and broadcasters and personalities.
Absolutely.
And so because we command the microphones and cameras of the world, we thought this was the biggest thing, but most normal people couldn't care less.
And that's why there are people who are like, and that's why people who are like, oh, Threads is just as good as Twitter now. It's like, well, there's a lot more journalists on Threads. They're trying to find a haven from there. And it's, okay, so at what point does it become a useful social platform? And at what point does it just become a chat room for journalists, which is what it started as?
And yet, there is some real value, or was some real value to Twitter.
I would say there still is. I mean, I'm on it every day, less than I was, but I'm still on it. I think it's a platform where you could get a tremendous amount of value if you're looking for information about news events, or if you're following sports. I mean, it is amazing for sports. Yeah. Although I've also moved. I mean, you have a Discord. I've moved into Discords for some of my sports stuff also.
The problem with the Discord...
Okay, this is a good idea for me.
I love Discord, but the problem with it is, it will be the San Francisco 49ers Discord. It won't be a general...
Correct.
And
so
it's narrower.
Yeah, exactly. So Discord, the platform, is good, but it's not these big rip-roaring communities. It's these more niche communities.
Wait, so I feel like there needs to be...
Discord.
Doesn't there need to be a centralized place where we can go and put our fingers on the pulse of what people are talking about? Wouldn't it be nice to have that? I felt like Twitter was that. Maybe it was an illusion, but I feel like that's what Twitter was.
It will still exist for those who... There will be a market for it. It's just like the market never turned out to be as strong as so many people anticipated. Right. And maybe the new way this evolves is people listen to, TWiT, and then they're in the TWiT Discord, the Club TWiT Discord, or on their
Well, that's what it
IRC
is, but
chat.
it's narrowcast.
And
yeah,
it's narrowcasting, but it's maybe those communities are healthier. I've been in the chat rooms. Let me tell you an example that's happened to me, just today. I've been in your chat rooms, and I've seen a lot of great feedback. There, not all of it positive, but people having a very constructive discussion in the chats. Then I log on to Twitter in my mentions, and someone's like, "You're an asshole. Jon Stewart getting canned by Apple right before production. That's not happening. That's BS." It's like, okay, if that's the difference between public and private, I'd much rather be in the private.
yeah.
And by the way, you're going to get higher quality, participation in those because people are going to gravitate to those communities.
Do we need? I mean, one thing that certainly has happened with over in my lifetime, mass media has gone from a few channels that were widely distributed and kind of represented the voice of the country to 1,000 channels and a whole bunch of fragmentation. Do we need one place or maybe a handful of places where you hear from everybody, where there's a national discourse about a topic?
I don't know.
We did well without that for many years with
Jeff Jarvis will say mass media is really a relatively new phenomenon. In the past, there wasn't any national media to speak
and now
of.
we have the media. And so if social media, if Twitter becomes less relevant, are we going to lose that much? Are we going to really lose what's going on? I mean, all those journalists at the Times who used to be on Twitter now probably going to be spending more time on the Times products, making better stories for us. And you go to the webpage there, or you go to the wallstreetjournal.com, or you come to Big Technology. We got stuff for you.
Yeah.
And you can have a very rich information diet with the sources that exist today without participating. And Leo, it's gone from a national conversation to a national yelling match. It is partisans and influence
It's not productive.
operations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so who needs that?
Yeah, I wonder if is it healthier if the internet is more tiny little communities where I deleted Twitter from my phone just this week. It's a big week for me. Finally, after all this time. And I really want to see people tweeting about the Phillies. But
where do
that's
you go?
the one thing I
guess
really miss.
You could go to the Phillies Discord. I'm sure there's a Phillies Discord.
I go to my group chat with my friends.
Yeah.
But
well, I go to Reddit. I'm sure there's a Phillies subreddit. I go to Reddit for the 49ers news.
Yeah. I guess I wonder if having the ability to instantly say anything and have it have the potential to go viral is maybe not a good thing.
Yeah.
But that's also not a Twitter problem. If anything, that's more of a TikTok problem, because you could be someone with 20 followers on TikTok and post something and it could go viral. And I don't know if we're meant to be this connected.
No, it's clearly been bad for us. It's been bad for our national discourse. It's been bad for us as individuals. But
now we're just so used to it.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're stuck. We're stuck. It's like fentanyl. We can't get off of it.
Oh, jeez.
But
now I'm like, guys, it's been 1 week since I've had Twitter on my phone.
Are you shaking yet? I mean, are you?
There have been a couple of times when I'm I really want to check, but honestly, it's mostly been Phillies related.
So you haven't logged in with the web browser on mobile yet?
I haven't yet. Honestly, I was a little worried that the two-factor authentication wasn't going to work. Now that
without the phone, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have the app-based two-factor, which you can get without having Twitter Blue, but I just kind of don't trust any of their stuff to not be broken. So I was like, is deleting the app from my phone going to lock me out forever? I don't know. But then I did, I logged back in on a computer because I switched the computer and I was able to log in. So here to report that the app-based two-factor authentication still works at X 1 year in.
When I quit Facebook, it really had to be cold turkey because there's no way to go on Facebook without an account. You can't see what's going on Facebook. Twitter, you can. I mean, I still have an account on Twitter, but you can. I guess actually, I don't know if you can read it without an account.
Not really
I think he's
anymore.
kind of blocked it out. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to someone's account if you're logged out, and you're just going to see tweets from they interspersed the years, like high engagement tweets over the past 3 years. So nothing current, which is annoying. And then
Also,
you can't even browse lists logged out anymore. It's completely been destroyed.
my highest engagement tweets are like memes. Like they're like nothing to do with like me as a professional persona. It's like me shit posting, which I'm very good at.
Oh, that's nice to know. Actually, I stopped posting on all of these things years ago. I don't even post on Reddit. I'm a read-only guy. But I do, and maybe it's just selfish, but I feel like there needs to be places, and maybe it's just a professional thing, where I can go and see what people are talking about. I mean, I have because I have these shows, I have an interest in knowing what people are interested in, what they're talking about, what the hot topics are. I kind of need somewhere like that. Twitter used to be that. There's also, you can make the argument, how are we ever going to get together as a nation if there is not some place we can talk to each other? But there isn't anymore. There's nowhere we can all talk to each other, right?
Oh, we were able to get together as a nation before Twitter existed. Maybe even better than we did, after it did.
So maybe it's been the opposite the case. It's polarized. It's a polarizing
let's consolidate,
force.
baby.
Well, how did we do it
way,
before? Wait a minute. How did we talk as a nation before? Through mass media, through mainstream media, right?
Well, we also we had media and we also had communities,
Right.
right? Like we got together. We tried to solve problems collectively. We went into a community and we said, this is an important issue. How do we solve it? And now what's happened is we've been divided. We don't do that anymore. And so
I've said it many times, and I'm sorry to bore everybody, but it was a very interesting book for me, the Robert Caro book about Bob Moses, the power broker. And there's a story, New York in the 40s had tenements where really shameful conditions for people. And Moses was so corrupt at that point that he was taking redevelopment money from the federal government and giving it to cronies who were not tearing down the tenements and building new buildings as they were supposed to, but instead were doing all sorts of shell games to make money off rents from these tenements. And the way it got fixed was there was a group of, he calls them matrons, women who, at the time weren't working, because in those days the husband worked and women stayed at home, and ladies clubs basically, who took the time to go around, interview people, find out what was really going on there. And then the way they got changed was they would then go to the newspapers with a story and get the newspapers to publish it. I don't know is that mechanism still there? I don't know how we do that nowadays. No. Maybe we need Kashmir back. How do you do that nowadays?
Local papers are gone, and so are the local groups. Yeah. So that whole cycle has been diminished, if not wiped
I imagine after reading that there are all sorts of horrific, scams going on that nobody knows about because nobody's trying to uncover it and nobody has the will to publish those stories. And I feel like we've lost something very important. One of the stories this week is about how all the big tech companies have basically moved away from news. News is just bad news. This is from the New York Times. Silicon Valley ditches news, shaking an unstable industry. It makes sense. Facebook was one of the first to stop doing news. News just polarizes. Yes, it maybe generates engagement, but also creates trouble. Now people are complaining, and you've got to have moderation and trust and safety. So, but the problem is if our new mass media doesn't do news, who's going to do news? Campbell,
hopefully journalists somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you're writing, Amanda, for TechCrunch. You're doing journalism, right?
Yeah, I'm writing about Homer Simpson singing Muse.
Well, all right, but you're the culture reporter.
I am doing journalism.
That's journalism. And Alex, you actually did something I think very modern, which is you created your own newsletter and your own podcast, and you've built a big audience with that, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We have 145,000.
That's incredible.
Thank you, Leo. And big news coming up this week.
Oh, what's that?
I'd love to share it. So I'm starting membership at Big Technology, and I have a bunch of new features that I'm introducing. So this is live now. Actually, I turned it on right before the show, so I'm actually introducing it here.
So if I go to bigtechnology.com.
Actually, the best way to do it for your listeners is bit.ly, bit.ly/bigtechnology, because they will get an extra 25% off annual membership. So it's 50% off the monthly price if you go annual. And there's a bunch of really cool new features that we're introducing. So in addition to the current posts that I'm doing, what people will get is this new feature called the panel, where I have about, already, close to 20 technologists, analysts, VCs, including Nick Thompson, who's the CEO of The Atlantic, and Sarah Fisher, who's a media columnist at Axios, Nina Akhadian, who is a partner at Index Ventures. And when big news breaks, like let's say Silicon Valley's bank is going down or Instacart is IPOing, I'm going to email the panel and be like, one sentence or two, how do we read what's happening here? Imagine in the middle of Silicon Valley Bank, if you had 20, 30 experts weighing in on what it meant and whether people should keep their money in or whether they should be out and whether it would spill over. I'm going to take that and email it out to people. So that's the panel. I'm also starting this new podcast, monthly podcast, that's going to be available to the premium subscribers called Big Tech War Stories. And it's going to be interviews with people who've been on the front lines inside big tech companies building projects. So Gaurav Nemade, who was the first product manager on Lambda, which was Google's ChatGPT precursor, is going to come in, and he's going to be the first interview for that. It's going to be a once a month podcast. And then lastly, Column with Tech Insiders. So Christy Coulter, who spent 11 years at Amazon and then just wrote this great book about Amazon, is going to do a monthly column for Big Technology, looking at what's happening with Amazon in the news today, and then bringing her insider perspective about how to interpret that. So I've been doing this for 3.5 years. Obviously do the podcast as well, but finally launching membership with Big Technology, and I'm stoked about it. I'd be thrilled if anybody gave it a try.
To me, this is really interesting because it's clear there's a gap. We need something. And there are new ways to do this, the newsletters and so forth. These are new ways to do this. It's very interesting. I wish you luck. I think I'm subscribing right now, by the way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're going to be our first subscriber, man. That's
no.
amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so cool.
Woo-hoo. Now, you may not know it's me because I am using a service called Omnivore. Are you aware of what Omnivore is?
I'd love to hear more.
So one of the problems I have, and one of the reasons I'm not into newsletters, is because I can't keep track. I can't control it. I can't keep track of it. It all ends up in my mail inbox, and there is nothing good ever came out of my mail inbox. It's just out of control. I've tried for years to filter and find ways to do this. So this is a open source product called Omnivore that lets me subscribe to newsletters. See, I have a subscription to your newsletter and organize it and filter it.
Amazing.
So
wow, Leo, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I guess I'm your first member.
Number one, Leo.
But instead, the address I used was not one of my addresses. It was an Omnivore address, a unique Omnivore address. So instead of going into my mailbox, it goes into what is like a newsreader, but it's in this case, a newsreader for newsletters, but it can be for any kind of articles and so forth. It's for I have an Omnivore save this article kind of thing.
I don't know if that was an ad, but if that was an ad, that was the smoothest product placement.
It wasn't an ad. It wasn't an ad.
Not sponsored. # not sponsored.
But, see, by the way, I always have some conflict over this kind of thing because, well, of course, we have paid advertising. That's what keeps us alive, that and our club members. But I always all my life recommended products. And I know it's kind of unclear. Is he getting paid to do this? So I will always say our sponsor. I will always say something that implies that is an ad or a sponsor. In this case, it's just something I found, and I'm trying to find some way to read newsletters. There are other newsreaders that can do this. Many newsreaders will have an email address you can use, and then newsletters go into the newsreader. This one's interesting because it's open source. You can host it yourself if you wanted to. I just think it's kind of an interesting product. So, and I don't think anybody's making money. I don't pay for it. I don't remember. I don't think if anything, I pay them. No, I think it's open source. So it's and there's a browser extension and so forth, and they have an app for iOS. But this is how I'm going to consume Big Technology from now on.
That's awesome. And yeah, on Tuesday, I'm going to send this is our official launch, but on Tuesday, I'm going to send a broader launch email with a recap of some of the things I just said, and the coupon will be in there again. So if people want to try the free list and then make a decision, that would be sweet too.
Good. This, by the way,
to talk about it.
So notice that it automatically gets the newsletter tag in Omnivore. And then when I look at it, it looks just like Substack, except it's not. It's in my...
Right. Oh yeah, that's exact same format.
Yeah. They preserve the formatting, but it's inside of the Omnivore reader, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to try this out.
Yeah. I'd be really curious as a newsletter publisher what you think of this. I don't want to do anything that's hostile to newsletter publishers, because I think newsletters are very important. I think going back to this story, Silicon Valley ditches the news industry. We need news. We need journalism. We need people to do investigative reporting. We need, even if it's just mothers groups going around to tenements to figure out why people are, being so mistreated. We need this kind of stuff. And it doesn't seem to be economically tenable. So anything that can come up with a way to make this more tenable, clearly relying on Twitter and Facebook for engagement was a big mistake. And companies that have done that are suffering right now, right?
Yeah, and it also broke a lot of journalists' brains, where they would do stories for engagement on Twitter and Facebook, and then eventually they forgot.
What are you laughing at, Amanda? Not like that, the Pokemon Red story. That wasn't an engagement-focused story. That was just you loving something.
I'm always laughing at something. But no, I mean, it makes sense.
That's why I like you, Amanda, because you got a good sense of humor.
Yeah. As much as I don't want to fan the flames of the media, don't trust them people. But I think it did significantly harm the public's trust in journalists when there's articles like, you will never believe what this celebrity said. And then you click them and it harmed an effect.
Yes, absolutely. The Times writes, many news companies have struggled to survive after tech companies threw the industry's business model into upheaval more than a decade ago. One lifeline was the traffic that came from sites like Facebook and Twitter, but now that traffic is disappearing. In September 2020, top news sites got about 11.5% of their traffic from social networks. It's now half that, 6.5%. And heading down. It isn't going to go up again. Instagram, remember, Adam Mosseri said, hosting news is more trouble than it's worth. We're not going to put news on Instagram. Google's getting out of the news business. Facebook in Canada said, no, all right, you don't like us? No more news. We're not paying for it, that's for sure.
This is going to be good for the news industry overall, because it's going to show the difference between what traffic and an audience is.
Good point.
You can get traffic. There's cheap ways to get traffic. I think, the talking about you'll never believe like this, like Amanda brought up, or, playing outrage, playing to why you should be mad today. That does great on social media. But I think that if you respect your audience and you write for them and, you don't play tricks to try to get them to click, that's where you end up building an audience. You end up building people who are going to come back week after week.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe getting away from social media is actually healthier for the news industry as well.
You can make a strong case that it's been bad for the news industry. You made that case, Amanda, with you won't believe what happened next. I mean, it's just been awful. This is also from the New York Times. Wall Street Journal noticed a decline starting about 18 months ago, according to a recording of a September staff meeting obtained by the Times. Emma Tucker, the journal's editor-in-chief, said, quote, "We are at the mercy of social algorithms and tech giants for much of our distribution." That's got to be, if you're the Wall Street Journal and you know that is the most important channel for you, you've got to be terrified.
There's a case that they screwed it up. I mean, how they relied so much on this stuff?
Yes.
That's wild. And there's a great quote, by the way, at the end. I think we shouldn't ignore this one. At the end of that New York Times article from Adrienne LaFrance at The Atlantic, who said, in a way, this decline of the social web, it's extraordinary, liberating.
Yeah.
And that direct connections to your readership is obviously important.
This is a Mike,
that's it.
By the way, a Mike Isaac piece. Mike's very good, along with Katie Robertson and Nico Grant at the New York Times. She also said direct connections to your readership are obviously important.
Oh, yes.
I think you nailed
Yeah,
it. I think that's what this is. God, I hope you're right. That's the optimistic take on this, is that they made a huge mistake. It's been a disaster, and they're going to get back to what really matters. You know, it's all that ever has worked for us is in podcasting. Nobody, we have a marketing department, and they post on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere. That's not how we get traffic. We get traffic by engaging with our audience and by building a community. That's in our mission statement. I've known that for 15 years.
Yeah, I think that you have simultaneously advertisements, but also paid membership. And it's wild to me that a lot of mainstream publications solely operate, not solely, but ad revenue is such a big part in what keeps media products alive. And if you're only relying on ad revenue without other major sources of revenue, then in times like right now, when advertising across the board is not great for like any media property, like at TechCrunch, we have events, and the events can make money if advertisements aren't making money. Right. This is above my pay grade. I don't deal with any of that stuff.
No, but you know it. I know this from running this business. For years, we did, rely on advertising. We've had to start, 2 years ago, we started the club. And, from day one, my dream was to be listener supported. But what happened in 2008 was we just couldn't make enough money just from listener support to build what I wanted to build. So we turned to advertising. Maybe we made a mistake. I think we did it with integrity. We really tried to make it not chasing numbers and picking advertisers that we believe in and so forth. But even so, it's going to be more and more listener supported. And I hope that we can, in fact, make that listener support sufficient to keep the network going. If we can't, we can't. But I'm hoping we can.
And these things are connected, because the advertisements that you choose impacts your relationships with your listeners. So you have to be thinking about how is the listener going to be affected at all times.
Yeah, I've turned down, investments in gold and Bitcoin and and vaping, and there's a lot of advertisers we won't do because I don't want to break our trust.
This episode is sponsored by the tobacco company.
By the way, stay tuned because 4 out of 5 doctors recommend Marlboro. No, they don't, kids. Don't smoke. I'm such a small player. We're such a small company that it's, we're on the sidelines watching this, but I can only imagine what's going through the minds of the Wall Street Journal at this point. It's $175 a year to subscribe, and they're not making, the Times, as I said earlier, has done a good job of monetizing, but they're the exception that almost proves the rule. All right, I want to take a little break.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about net neutrality. It's back, baby, better than before. It's great to have you both. Amanda Silberling is here. She covers culture and makes us laugh at TechCrunch. It's always great to have you on. Thank you for being here, Amanda. I really appreciate it. And from the big technology show and newsletter, Substack, and now soon from the club. I like the panel idea. That's a great idea. BigTechnology.com. I wish I were more imaginative. Because if I'd been more imaginative, I could have come up with stuff like that. But no, I just sit here talking gas.
Yeah, it's also just like a product of the moment. Where like I used to hear from all these people.
Right.
So by the way, to go back to our theme of the segment, I used to hear from all these people on Twitter and then on Threads.
Right.
And then some of them have like moved from one to the other, and some of them have just left completely. And at this point, I'm just like, well, now I'm just going to email them and then hopefully provide a service to the people who are subscribing where they can now get these thoughts, on their own.
Some years ago, I created a experimental podcast, which I never did anything with, called Leo on the Line. And that was kind of the idea was, I wanted to do something I could do just sitting in my house, in my jammies, call people and say, hey, Alex, did you see this story? What do you think about that? And just do that. And it would be, hey, it's Leo on the line. What do you think about that? And do 20 of those, and that would be the show. Maybe I will. Maybe I should do that.
So you did have the panel idea.
Yeah,
Leo.
I did. I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Fingers crossed. Let's see if it works.
I'm just
lazy.
I hope so. therapist says, you're not lazy, you're efficient.
Look at you're efficient. You're running a massive podcast operation.
Yeah, what a mistake that was.
I don't think lazy is the right word.
And I look like Jerry Lewis. All right, we're going to take a little break. Got a great panel. I want to talk about the FCC. Net neutrality may be back, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Our show today brought to you by ExpressVPN. Here's a perfect example. There are times when you need a VPN to protect your security, to allow you geographic anonymity so you can surf around the world, to keep data brokers from collecting information about you from your ISP and others. And when you need a VPN, you need the right VPN. And this is the one I use, and this is the one I recommend. And I'll tell you why. ExpressVPN. In fact, you can read about this in Bleeping Computer. They wrote a great article about their backend. The whole idea here is when you use a VPN, you're protected now from your computer through your ISP, past Google, all of that, to the VPN exit point. But at some point, you have to have an identity on the internet. So the VPN server, the other end, the thing that's on the other end of the wire from your computer, they're getting all the information your ISP was getting or your carrier was getting. You have to trust these guys more than you trust your ISP. That's why it's so important to choose your VPN provider. So let me tell you, the key here is no logging. If a VPN doesn't keep track of your visit, it can never be used against you. They can't sell it to other people. They can't breach your privacy. Governments can't reach in and find out who you are. That's really important. And ExpressVPN not only believes it, they bring in third parties to audit them, and they've created technology to support it. For instance, all the ExpressVPN servers run on a custom Debian distribution that wipes the drive, wipes it completely every morning when they reboot. So it starts clean with no trace of your visit. When you click the button on the ExpressVPN app, and by the way, that app runs everywhere, iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, Linux. You can even put it on your router. It supports many routers. They also sell some very good routers at the ExpressVPN website you can use. So your whole house could be protected. When you click that button and it joins a server, it spins up a copy of the server software they wrote at ExpressVPN called Trusted Server. And this has been vetted by a third party, so it's not just them saying it, it's true. It spins it up and runs in RAM, and it's sandboxed. It cannot write to the hard drive. You are the one and only user of that server. No one else can see what you're doing. And as soon as you close the connection, it's gone. It evaporates like just dust in the wind. So there is never any copy of anything you do on the ExpressVPN hard drive. And by the way, we know this is also true because ExpressVPN is widely used in repressive regimes, in police states where they don't need warrants. They just come and they take the server. They don't even knock. They break down the door. They take the server. And in case after case after case, they've done that in ExpressVPN and found nothing. We know there's nothing on the servers. So 3 reasons to use it: security, privacy, but let me talk a little bit about geographic location. If you want to use Netflix in more than one location, if you want to watch, let's say it's spooky season, horror movies in Japan or England, you can do that with ExpressVPN. Just tell the server endpoint to be, you say where it is. I want it to be in Japan. And now Netflix thinks you're in Japan, will show you all of the things on Netflix Japan. You can change your online location, trick Netflix into showing you movies and TV shows not available here in the U.S. By the way, this is not illegal. You are a Netflix subscriber. I asked Netflix. They said it's fine. We just don't recommend it because VPNs are so slow, right? They obviously know about ExpressVPN. And this is one of the reasons you want a paid VPN. This is $7 a month. It's not expensive. But they put enough money into the infrastructure that you can watch HD video and better out of Japan over the VPN. It's fast. In fact, many's the time I've left it on by accident. I started it on a device, forgot about it, months later go, oh, wait a minute, the VPN is on here. You don't even notice it, right? ExpressVPN. You want to watch Scream, the original Scream. You can't see it in the U.S. Canada, you can see it. So you say, hey, I'm in Toronto. Boom, push the button. Watch Scream on Netflix. I love this. Not just scary movies. ExpressVPN is in 100 different countries. So you can watch all of the Lord of the Rings on Netflix Australia, the original Top Gun on German Netflix, Parasite on Korean Netflix. ExpressVPN works on everything: phones, laptops, tablets, TVs in your house. Not just for Netflix, it works pretty much all streaming services: Disney Plus, BBC iPlayer, yes, because they rotate their IP addresses, Shudder. ExpressVPN. This is the only one I'll use. Get your money's worth, 3 extra months free with a 1-year package. Go to expressvpn.com/twit. That'll bring it down to below $7 a month for the best VPN. The one you want. EXPRESS. expressvpn.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting Twit. I've been using this for years. They've been a sponsor for years. It's the one I recommend. The one you should use. expressvpn.com/twit. That's probably true. Galia says in our Discord, Netflix probably doesn't want to circumvent location because that's what the movie companies, they don't care. They want you to watch everything that you want as long as it's not their fault. That makes sense. All right, let's talk about net neutrality. The FCC under Jessica Rosenworcel, the new chairman of the FCC, and now with a 3-2 Democratic majority, they voted, interestingly, 3-2 in a meeting on October 19th, so I guess Friday, to put the notice of proposed rulemaking up for public comment on net neutrality. Now, you remember under the Republican administration and FCC, they decided no one needs net neutrality. What would you want that for? So, safeguarding and securing the open internet based on 2015's Open Internet Order, which classified broadband kind of nuttily as a Title II communications service. Just all I can say is comment, right? Jessica Rosenworcel, the chairman, says, as long as I've served on the FCC, I've supported net neutrality. In 2017, despite overwhelming opposition, the FCC repealed net neutrality. Oh, yes, that's right, and stepped away from the Title II authority. So Title II was a good thing. Over broadband. The decision put the agency on the wrong side of history, she said, the wrong side of the law, and the wrong side of the American public. Today, we begin a process to make this right. We fought this. As you may remember, the comment period was completely tainted by what was admitted by the telecommunications industry, fake, phony comments that they had generated by the thousands to justify the repeal of net neutrality. This is huge. So let's cross our fingers, and this one's going to get through. By the way, after the FCC did that, about a dozen states created their own net neutrality rules, but you need to have a nationwide regulation on this. So any thoughts, anything you want to say, Amanda? Or I presume I'm not crazy. Net neutrality is a good thing, right?
Well, let me ask a question. Amanda, you go ahead and then I'll ask.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I think net neutrality, good.
Yep, it's good.
Okay, so here's my question. When net neutrality was repealed, what have we seen since then that has lived up to some of the warnings that people have made? I'm not saying that I'm not saying that repealing it was the right thing to do. I'm just personally curious if either of you have seen.
No, that's the test.
Evidence.
That's the test. Did the telecommunications industry lobbied for this? They posted millions of fake comments in favor of repealing it. What did they do? Did it change the world? Because if it did, then we know that they claimed, no, you don't need net neutrality. You don't need these regulations. We're always going to do the right thing. Have you looked at your cable bill lately? Have you looked at your cell phone bill lately?
Well, my cable bill is split between 3 households because YouTube TV is easy to exploit.
Oh, don't say that out loud.
Why do I have...
Oh, good job, Amanda.
Fireworks?
Did you do thumbs up? Do it again. Do it again. Again. 2 thumbs up.
Does that really work?
Wait,
Yeah. You're on a Mac. I know why.
Oh no, that's... I didn't know that was a thing.
Just don't flip us off. You won't like the results. Okay, I'm just saying.
Oh, no.
No,
Wait,
that's a thing, and I'll tell you how to turn it off if you wish.
I feel like a boomer.
No, I'm the boomer, but I know this one. There's a little green button up in your menu bar on the right there, right? Click it, and you'll see that you have turned on reactions. which is on by default. You can click that and turn them off.
Oh no.
That's part of
I just got a new work computer this week.
It's part
so
of
you can
Mac
tell
OS
that.
Sonoma. Apple did this, and by default, they're turned on. And they're not only just they're turned on system-wide. So no matter what software you're using, every time you do 2 thumbs up.
That's not even a Zoom thing? Oh, my God.
And we were talking about this on MacBreak Weekly. See, oh no, it's back. What are the other ones? I can't remember.
I didn't do anything. I was just making it happen again for fun.
Yeah. There's other gestures too. Let me see if I can't remember. That's the only one I remember. One thumb up will do a thumbs up emoji. Do 1 thumb up. Oh, you turn it off. No, there it is.
There it is.
2 thumbs up is fireworks.
I haven't turned it off.
Do a
yet.
thumbs down. Do a thumbs down. And now, if you really want to make it rain, do 2 thumbs down.
Oh no!
Oh my God, this is amazing. Someone's going to do this in a meeting and just completely ruin their career.
This is turned on with Sonoma by default. No one knows, and no one knows how to turn off. And more importantly, just as you pointed out, Alex, no one knows who's doing it. Where the hell did this?
Yeah, now I truly don't know how to turn this off.
Peace sign, Amanda. Give us a peace sign.
Oh, that was 2 peace signs.
No, that one peace sign will give you balloons. Go ahead.
This reminds me of the lawyer that showed up to the hearing and had the cat filter turned on. And
Your Honor.
was like, I assure you I'm not
Your
a cat.
Honor,
I'm a lawyer.
I'm not a cat.
And the judge is like, should we resume when you're no longer a cat?
Like, I'm supposed to know how to use technology.
Now, Amanda, well, no, you're learning. This is we're all together. So do one more for me. You're a millennium.
Yes.
I can never do the heart thing. Will you do the heart thing for me? Well, that's a weird way to do it.
Well, you can do it like this. You can do it like this.
Yeah, there you go.
That one, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
see,
nice.
You can also do the this kind of heart.
I don't think. Oh, that's from the ASL, right? No, doesn't do that.
No, I don't know.
There's actually a story.
Oh no, is that not a heart?
No, that's a heart. No, that's a heart.
Okay.
Apple Live reactions can interfere with telehealth. This is from Therapy
Can you
Notes.
imagine you're in therapy and you're just like, you put like the thumbs up.
I'm okay, Doc. I'm doing great.
Man, I've completely.
Tell me about your breakup. You're like, well, you accidentally thumbs up and it fireworks off. And you're like,
this is also in your
I've completely
iOS.
derailed our conversation
Open
about
the
net
control
neutrality.
center in iOS. Click video. This is why we need net neutrality. I don't know why. Open the control center. Click video effects. Click the reactions. It's in the green button is where you look. And the green button has some other things. I was playing with this when I was at my mom's house this week. There's a studio effects, and you can do the blurred background too. But don't do those. Those look terrible. There's studio lighting. Amanda, show us Amanda. Do studio lighting. It's under the green button again. Let's see.
Wait, which green button?
Up in the upper right-hand corner in the menu bar, there's a green thing that shows you're online.
Wait.
Of your Mac.
Oh, I see it now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You are like,
So this
there,
is
see, studio
lighting.
lighting. It's dark, it's beautiful.
Oh.
And then you could turn all that off, and if you would, please.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off reactions now before I do a thumbs up in therapy.
We've all learned something here. Anyway, I think you can probably make a long list of direct consequences to the repeal of net neutrality. 0 rating. How much does Netflix cost? It's going to go up again. But Netflix is the incumbent because so many cell phone companies don't charge you for Netflix bandwidth. That's another form of breaking net neutrality, favoring a particular streaming network over another, and thereby letting T-Mobile or whoever pick incumbents to pick winners in the streaming wars. That's a little more subtle because consumers say, well, I don't mind. I don't want to pay for bandwidth on Disney Plus. That should be free. I think you can point to a lot of consequences. We should get Cory Doctorow on because I'm sure he has a lot of them. But I just got to ask. I mean, has your cell phone bill gone down? Has your cable bill gone down? No, absolutely not. No. So I think in hindsight, it was a bad idea. We shall see. FCC has green-lighted. This is kind of interesting. Super fast Wi-Fi tethering for whom? For the Vision Pro and other VR and AR headsets. This is the 6 gigahertz band. It has to be approved by the FCC. They unanimously approved this. It is short, very short throw. Okay, it's VLP, very low power. Signal can't go very far. And the reason they want this is it's a way for devices like VR helmets to communicate with your computer, with the hand doohickeys. Microsoft, Google, Apple, and Meta all have petitioned the FCC. They did so in 2019. Both Apple and Google have been working on AR, as you know, as has Meta. So I can't see any reason not to approve this, and the FCC has now, after 4 years, finally said, yes, you can go ahead and use this super fast 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi tethering.
Yeah, and that will help for latency, I imagine.
Yes,
I mean, I just
exactly.
I was just went into Meta last week and got a chance to play around with the Oculus 3 and the new Ray-Ban glasses.
What do you think?
And I thought it was terrific, I have to say. I thought the number one thing, first of all, with the Oculus 3 is that it has full color pass-through. So you're like in this VR goggles and you're like looking around the room, kind of like how the Vision Pro sold it with Apple, and it really feels like you're there. So I played one of these games where I'm looking around the room and I can see everything going on in the room, and the wall starts coming down, and little space puffs start infiltrating from space into the room that I'm in, and I have to like shoot them and collect them into this container or something like that. And this whole experience is happening inside the room. I mean, it's some pretty cool stuff. I don't know. I use the second generation, and the leap that they made from the second generation to the third generation is fantastic.
Well, imagine how I feel having paid $1,400 for the Meta Quest Pro. No,
right.
It's not as good as the $400 Quest 3s. Sean Hollister has pointed out, though, that the problem with having these really good cameras and this really good view of the outside world is that people are now taking them out of the house. Sean writes on The Verge.
Oh my God, this clip is amazing.
The Meta Glassholes have arrived. People are walking to public places wearing a video recording face computer on their heads, although only this time it's sold by Meta, not Google. What's the video? Is this Carrot Survivors video you're talking about?
The one where the guy walks into the cafe and he's got the Oculus on.
Yes.
And he has full pass.
Sorry, that
You
was...
can go into the cafe as if he's like a normal person, and then orders. I don't know if it's this one.
Let me
It's
see.
deeper
Yeah,
in.
this is
But he orders the
one.
coffee as if he's like a normal person. He's like, "Can I have like a latte, please?" And he's like got the full Oculus on his, on his face.
And what
He
was the
looks like
reaction?
ridiculous.
Here he is skateboarding.
Oh my God! People laughed at him as he walked in, and the cashier was like, "Are you kidding me?" But they are also just like they couldn't see the fact that he was he was able to see pass through. So a lot of them are just like, how is this person walking and not crashing into walls? Now, we're not anywhere close to where we need to be. I mean, the big drawback with this technology is it looks like you're wearing a brick on your face.
Right.
Right. And nobody wants that. So I think that over time, we're going to end up having the form factor come down, and then people are actually going to walk through mixed reality goggles and just do daily life things. And I think, the pranksters and the influencers are starting it now, but,
Do you think we'll get used to that?
No. I mean, it depends what it looks like, right? The Ray-Bans look fine, but there's nothing on the screen. But are we going to start to look like, Geordi from Star Trek? And, is that going to be normal? I think it's going to be weird for a very long time.
How much did people freak out about wearing face masks because then you can't see people's faces? And then imagine people's eyes covered with a Meta Quest 3. I also just feel like that can't be comfortable. I haven't used the Quest 3. I've used the Quest 2, but to have something so heavy on your face is a lot.
Here is CIX LIV's video of walking into a coffee bar.
This is it.
This is what he's seeing in the coffee bar. This is what the coffee bar is seeing.
Right.
He's not holding up that
in.
screen, by the way. That was a virtual screen. He just looks like a normal guy wearing a helmet.
Just a normal guy with the VR goggles going into a local cafe.
Hey, if you're in San Francisco, you're used to this.
Right.
Yeah, this is.
See, once again, I think Mark Andreson is wrong when he says that we need to accelerate tech at all costs.
Hello. I would like your large latte with whole milk.
She's completely nonplussed by this. She's not doing anything. She's just like,
She's
what do you
trying
want?
to sell coffee.
Must live in San Francisco. Oh, another one. Here they
I
are
will
again.
say, in Philadelphia, I have never seen this, so we're safe for now. Say what you want about our sports fans, but at least no one is ordering coffee wearing a virtual reality headset.
How are the Phillies doing?
They had a little bit of a scary moment losing 2 games in a row to the Diamondbacks, but then they won last night. It is 3-2 in the NLCS. They just have to win one more of the next 2 games, which will both be at home, and the Phillies do very well at home because their fans are crazy.
They went from 2 down to 1 up. They went from 0-2 to 3-2.
Yeah, it was
won 3
a rough
games
week.
in a row. Oh my God, how exciting!
No. They were up 2-0.
Oh, okay.
And then they went
Then
down.
they lost 2.
They went 2-2, and now it's 3-2.
This is.
But
yeah. You're obviously from Philadelphia, right?
Well, I live there. I'm not from there, but
okay.
I've lived here for a while.
It's hard not to get the fever when you live in a town.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really care that much about football, but I'm probably going to watch the Eagles game after this just because, like, that's what people do.
Yep.
Like, I'm not even a big football fan.
There are arch rivals.
It's crazy.
They're the ones we're worried about. All right. Well, you know what? Wear your Meta goggles to the game and see what happens.
Well, I don't have ones with the pass-through, so that'd be bad.
You just bump into the wall. All right. Let's take our final break, and we'll wrap things up with a wonderful panel. I'm sorry that Kashmir couldn't stick around. I guess she just didn't want her kids to get that much screen time, but I thank you for having some screen time. Alex Kantrowitz, bigtechnology.com, and bit.ly/bigtechnology if you want to sign up.
Yeah, that's the discounted subscription.
25%
so
off,
annual price there is 50% off the monthly. And then if you just want to go to Big Technology, if the Bitly stuff is too complicated, go to bigtechnology.com. And I'm going to email everything about the paid offering on Tuesday. But
good.
This is exclusive news here, breaking it first. So
I subscribed to the $90 a year plan because I want to get that panel. I want to get the emails. I want to get all of that. Oops, don't show my credit card number though, because you can get it too.
And free. Well, not free. It's included in that is this monthly Big Tech War Stories podcast that I'm starting.
I will be listening.
I'm pumped about that.
I'll be listening.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Thanks, Leo.
Do you know who your first guest is going to be?
Yeah. It's the first product manager of Lambda inside Google, which was the ChatGPT forerunner,
their LLM
that never gets shipped.
Yeah.
And so he talks about how they found the technology when they realized it was as good as it was going to be, all the different use cases they dreamed up, including the really weird ones inside Google, and then why it never got out the door and what it means for the company's leadership and its strategy. Super fun interview.
Can't wait. Amanda Silberling writes about tech culture at TechCrunch.com and plays a pink bass.
I do.
Is that yours?
Oh, wait, other side.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. I don't know which way I'm pointing.
There we go.
It's like mirrored.
That's awesome.
Yes, that is my base.
Oh, how funky. How funky and fresh. It's great to have you both. Our show brought to you by, whoever the hell buys this next ad slot. That's who it's brought to you by. If you missed anything this week on TWiT, you missed a lot, including me broadcasting from Mom's house. Watch.
On this episode of This Week in Space, we're talking to Jose Hernandez, former NASA astronaut and the subject of the great new biopic on Amazon Prime, A Million Miles Away.
When you think NASA, you think the latest and greatest. But then when you look at flight hardware, it's not the latest and greatest. I said I was the portable onboard computer guy. I mean, we were using IBM Think pads.
Right. The original ThinkPad.
Big, heavy ones, you know.
Previously on TWiT. Hands on Mac.
Coming up on Hands on Mac, it's time to talk about passkeys and show you how easy it is to set up a passkey on your Mac.
Home Theater Geeks.
I talk with several members of the Value Electronics TV Shootout team and reveal the king of 4K TVs.
MacBreak Weekly.
New Apple Pencil is here. The new Apple Pencil is here.
And everybody was so excited about, we've got inside information about a big release this week. We're pretty sure it's going to be new iPads. Like, it's a pencil.
Folks, this is Apple Pencil 2 minus 0.5.
Oh, no.
Basically.
TWiT, now also available in several colors of unapologetic plastic.
So
What? No, I'm in my recording now.
Yeah, that happens at KFI every day. What? Mom, I'll take out the trash when I'm done. The stuff never gets on the Sunday reel, you know.
Those guys is crazy. This Week in Space, every week on TWiT. By the way, if you're not a club member, we were talking about having memberships. That show, This Week in Space, wouldn't exist without Club TWiT. If you're not yet a Club TWiT member, I invite you to go to twit.tv/clubtwit. Join us, $7 a month. Gets you ad-free versions of all the shows. Gets shows we don't put out in public, like Hands on Macintosh, Hands on Windows, The Giz Fizz, Scott Wilkinson's Home Theater Geeks, and originally This Week in Space. But it did so well, we started putting it out in public. twit.tv/club TWiT. It's not as expensive. It is as expensive as big technology, almost. But it's worth it. Do both.
Do both.
Do both. You can afford both. $7 a month, $84 a year. We also have family plans and business plans. It's cheaper than, it's not. Actually, X is now a buck a year, the not a bot price. Although Elon says he's going to have some other tiers, 2 new premium tiers. It is cheaper than the $8 a month tier. There will be an even more expensive tier on X that will remove all ads. And then there'll be a lower cost one with all the features but no reductions in ads. He tweeted that yesterday or the day before yesterday. Well, I want to thank you. I don't have anything else to say, I guess. Is there any other stories that we had that we didn't get to? Google lost a gender bias lawsuit. Olku Rove, who was a female Google Cloud executive, said that the guys got higher pay even though they had less experience. The court agreed. A jury found Google guilty of sexual discrimination, awarded Olku Rove $1.1 million. The jury ruled that Google owes Rove for both punitive damages and pain and suffering. But the jury found that while Google treated Rove differently than other employees because of her gender, she hadn't proven that Google violated New York law by paying her less than 2 of her male counterparts. What else? Just want to make sure we got everything in here. I think we did. I think we did. I feel the energy from you guys is we got everything done, Leo. Let's go home. Alex.
Yeah, I'm just like, there's a lot of news. I don't know.
There's so many stories in here. I'll tell you what, it was a big week. Alex Kantrowitz, congratulations on the launch of your pay. What is it? It was already paid, right? It wasn't free.
No, it's been free the whole time.
It's been free the whole time.
I've been waiting for the right moment and the right offering. And it took me a long time, but I think I figured it out.
Well, congratulations.
So
that's a big deal then.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
I'm pumped.
And you can still listen to Big Technology Podcast and read the Big Technology
right.
Substack, but just go to bigtechnology.com and subscribe because you should. It's the right thing to do. Support the good stuff. Amanda Silberling is at TechCrunch. So come on, give us a tip. Give us a hint. What are you writing about this week? Any new Twitch AI weirdness?
I don't know, but my colleague Morgan Sung was just at TwitchCon in Las Vegas, so who knows what she's cooking up.
How do you get your inspiration to what to write about?
Oh God, yeah. Sometimes it's like things I see on the internet, but I think an underrated way to get story ideas is just like talking to people that I know in real life who might not be like super techie people, but if they're like, hey, I'm seeing this weird thing happen on my phone, or like there's this trend on TikTok that's happening that is like interesting. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example.
Do you live? How much time? All right, I got one for you. How much time a day do you spend on TikTok?
Honestly, not that much. I actually only started using TikTok once I started writing about it, but I have tried to like make some TikToks, but I don't know. I mean, my TikTok is so boring. Like I get videos of like moms sharing cleaning tips and I never find anything good. And then other writers are like, oh yeah, my TikTok is insane. And I'm like, I need to stop watching the cleaning videos.
I appreciate you both. Thank you so much for being with us. I love doing the show with you. Amanda Silberling from TechCrunch, Alex Kantrowitz, now the brand new bigtechnology.com. We love doing it, and I hope you'll come back soon. Appreciate it. I hope all of you will come back soon. We do This Week in Tech Sunday afternoons, right after Ask the Tech Guys, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We stream it, if you want to watch it live, we stream it live at live.twit.tv. There's audio and video there. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show are available not only from the website, but there's a dedicated YouTube channel. And of course, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client. One of the oldest, longest-running podcasts in the world. Should be easy to find on any podcast platform. Just look for TWiT or This Week in Tech. Hey, last week we had Will Harris on, and he was talking about unbound.com. And he had said, I thought I sent you a copy of 42. He did. So I just got it. 42. This is the Douglas Adams book that they did. This, I've been looking through it. It is unbelievable. If you're a fan of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or any of Douglas Adams stuff, you could look over my shoulder. This was all material found in his office and then further curated by a fan, and it's just incredible. Look at, there's the script, the original script, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Nice. Wow.
That's a beautifully laid out book.
Oh,
wow. Is that nice?
Unbound does such great stuff. And Will was on last week and mentioned, we talked about this and how great it was. There's his report card. But I didn't have it to show. And so I just wanted people who had listened last week to see it. Yeah, really neat. Must have if you're a fan of The Hitchhiker's Guide. It's called 42, The Wildly Improbable Ideas of Douglas Adams. Kevin John Davies edited this from material he found in his desk at his house and other places. And it's from Unbound at unbound.com. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope you had a good time. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, it's always nice for me to say another TWiT is in the can. Bye-bye.